The Mayo Experience.
That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by DraftKings. The final piece of the puzzle. U.S. Open, DraftKings picks, lineup construction, and ownership, along with the weather, the final bets, and a discussion on who you need to use in the one and done this week for the year's third major. We are live on YouTube at the moment. If you have a question, we're going to get to those at the end, but you need to be subscribed to Mayo Media Network in order to ask your question. So please go do that right now. Smash the like while you're here as well. And the giveaways are still ongoing. I'll announce the winner on Monday of the $500 giveaway. So there is still time to get into that because Tambo, we are pushing becoming the number one for the week fantasy sports and betting podcast in the world. And we're like almost cracking the top 20 of all sports podcasts inside of the United States and Canada. So the more reviews and subscriptions, so subscribe, rate, and review the Pat Mayo Experience audio podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, preferably Apple Podcasts at this point, and see if we can push those numbers up. We need to rig the system.
I like it. Going live can help us with that. But what about the B4L movement is going to be back today? Will that hurt us or help us?
What's that?
The Ban for Life is coming back. If there's no good questions, right? It has to be a thing. So we'll see if that helps or hurts us near the end, but I'm excited to be back, excited for another major. My favorite major, I say it all the time, it's my favorite major of the year, a Canadian that loves the U.S. Open, so excited to get into it, Pat.
Well, you're looking good on this thumbnail.
Oh, I'm so happy. Yeah, by the way, so grateful and thankful to you and the thumbnail team that gives me the Ryan Gosling, and I'm showing that to my wife last night. I was thinking, she's like, I don't think so, but I kind of like that hairstyle, man. I might have to try that out this summer.
You might. You look very good as Ryan Gosling. I don't know how I'm pulling off Emma Stone in this one, but we are in La La Land. We are in Hollywood, so let's get to the bets. See if we can find ourselves a winner this week at the U.S. Open. John Rahm for me, 12-1. Cam Smith, 30-1. And then two of Cuss picks are two of my bets because he fucking stole them from me. Joaquin Niemann, 125-1. Mito Pereira, 150-1. Like, those are just good numbers.
Yeah, the Mito one I got, not the Niemann, but I like Niemann. It's it's a really good spot that you got, and I like that number quite a bit too.
And then me, like most people out there, most people watching the show, you included, I think Paul was on the train too. Can't remember if he is or not, but after Torrey, we all bet Max Homa. Yeah. Not at the Masters, not at the PGA Championship, but for the U.S. Open in his hometown, 50-1 with 5 places for me. On the Best Bet show with Cam and Rob, we all gave out a single first-round leader, but then Cam gave out like 20 first-round leaders. But we ended up deciding on Thigala, 75-1, Woodland, 80-1, and Patrick Rogers at 90-1 as the first-round leader bombs that we're going to go with this week. And then the one and done, John Rahm for me, Scotty Scheffler for Jeff Feinberg, and Wyndham Clark for Tim Andercust. Yes, Paul.
For the record, I had massive FOMO on not having the 50s on Homa, but I have a Costco 32 pack of DCs with Tim Andercust, Homa versus Windy C. That's what I've got.
Tim is basically, we had a group thread yesterday about how Max Homa sucks. Max Homa won't make the cut. Max Homa is the worst. It's just like this.
Which side is he on? He's like sticking with Windy C in this?
Yeah.
Okay.
He thinks Max Homa is terrible. Then because he brought up the major performances with Max Homa and like how shit he's been in major championships in his career. And I'm like, man, you picked Wyndham Clark to win. And then I went and sent him Wyndham Clark never played in the Masters. He's made like one cut in a major in his career. Now, I do think it's actually a pretty decent play, but it's just funny that like Homa can't win because he's been so bad. Wyndham Clark is going to win maybe because he's only exclusively been bad. I mean, he's building up all the mo for this one tournament.
And he's betting him head to head at even odds. So that seems even crazier. But I actually have the 50, like you said, but I'm kind of low on him when we get to DFS later, and Windy C even lower. So happy to hear Tim's all aboard that one. But did you get? It sounds like you didn't. The best exotic of the week, Scotty Scheffler, wire to wire, 45-1.
Is that the best exotic of the week?
Finds the putter. If you can get Scotty at 45-1 when everyone else is taking 7, just get the job done out of the gate and move it along. That's the best way to do it. Even the first round leader, I think, is only 18 or 20. So
I mean, that's basically the parlay, though. You're parlaying the 7-1 with the 18-1, and you're not even getting as good of odds as you would get on.
Right, but yes, but I don't know if all books will let that. But if you do it, 45-1, he walks away with it, finds that putter finally. He's got a secret putter. He's going to show us on Thursday. He says we'll find out on Thursday. Watch it just be the same one, but We'll see what happens. I'm just teasing, but I do like that number at 45-1, and that's what I bet just for fun.
I am going to have just all the laughs when he shows up with like the Adam Scott Siwoo putter. He's just doing this on the greens.
Oh my God, he's definitely not doing that.
That would be amazing. It's worked for Siwoo and Adam Scott.
It really has.
Siwoo's
Siwoo's been like the most consistent in a little while too, since any other time. So we'll take that.
All right.
He's going to be a guy that we discuss later as well.
Oh yeah, you like Siwoo, do you?
I don't know if I do. That's why I want to get your take. You're usually the Siwoo whisperer. The one thing is it looks like he's going to be one of the popular guys down there. And when we do the lineup breakdowns and start going through and building some of these things, you're going to see that range, very popular this week.
Well, yeah, I can tell you which range is not popular. The $8,000 range.
Yeah, it seems that way.
Well, it's...
Besides one guy.
Yeah, there's probably like one or two guys that are going to pop up, but just when we were talking pre-show about how lineup construction is going, everyone's just kind of starting with one of the studs, trying to pair it with probably the same stud over and over, then dropping to all the same four guys that everyone else is playing. Mm-hmm. And none of those guys are in the low $8,000 range.
Yeah, that's correct. And 7K range just gets blasted because of that. The upper sevens have a bunch of guys from Ricky up to Fleetwood. The bottom range has the Mitos, the Siwoos, the Henleys, the plays that everyone's going to there. So crazy enough, for a week that gets almost 2 weeks of content, which you're pretty dialed into, and then everyone's all over the major, it almost feels like a lazy week because the groupthink is just so heavy that almost everyone's on the same guys.
And when you go back historically and look at the U.S. Open of all the majors, I guess the Masters kind of is more of an example of this because you have guys that are historically good at the Masters. You just kind of have to pick and choose in the 6K range which one it's going to be. It was like Phil this year, Charles 2 years ago, like just random old dudes that do well. But by and large, the U.S. Open is the most generous to the 6K range, I've found.
Yeah, well, yes and no. The reason people will say no is because obviously you get the AMs and the qualifiers, and when you get down there, it's tough. But usually, like you said, there is, even go back, I think we were teasing it pre-show, is like the year, remember Xander, it was like the Xander, Schauffele, Trey Mullinax coming out party. Somebody played 80 or 85% of each of them, ended up winning the $20 Millie Maker that year. Now it's 25, of course, this year. But just in general, you can find plays like that. There's definitely guys in the 6Ks that will show up. So I think going away from that completely is off. Like there's definitely, I've got at least 15 to discuss. I won't have them all, but just to say there's definitely guys you can play down there. And it's not that much different playing two guys from 6,800 than it is going to 71, 70. People argue, yes, on paper, these guys look better, sure. But when they come with 15% ownership and these guys down there are 1% or 2%, I have no problem just moving off and going to some of those guys instead.
Nick Hardy, MJ Duffy, and there was someone else last year. I think Duffy ended up slipping on Sunday, but Hardy finished inside the top 10, I think, coming in. So worth noting, something to look at. The weather in Los Angeles is very nice because it's Los Angeles, although it's been raining there a ton this year. Not so much this week. Don't see it much in the forecast, but I don't see any, yes, the wind picks up a little bit more on Thursday afternoon, but it doesn't seem substantial enough to be like, oh my God. You need to target the PM wave. It's going to be, or the AM wave. It's going to be consistently 8 in the morning, and that's gusts, and then gusts up to 13 in the afternoon. No big deal.
Yeah, I don't think there's much there, but again, I always will say it. I play the PM AM guys because I like that. So one interesting note is, that's sort of just a set that I build in. But one interesting note is there's a lot of sort of the chalk you can get off if you go to that. Like Xander is in the AM, Scotty's in the AM. Just going through it, and I'll explain in one more second, but there was another guy there that was Fleetwood, AM. A lot of the guys that you see people going to are in the morning, or AM, PM wave, and what I always talk about for those that are new or watching for the first time is that especially at the U.S. Open, man, it's tough to grind that cut number. So when you get there in the afternoon and you're 3-4 over coming into the round, you just got to have one good round and you make the cut. And then you start making mistakes along the way. It trickles away from you. Somehow it's just it's the game of golf. It's a mental game. It can get away from you quickly. And then you see guys just slip down the stretch. So I have no problem if you want to stack aside to go some PMAM just to alleviate some of the natural chalk.
You'll be doing the showdown shows on Mayo Media Network on Thursday night and Friday night. For Thursday, going into round 2, do you exclusively target the AM wave?
No, not always, but we've definitely had good success. Last year at the PGA Championship, that was a little bit more of a wave advantage, though, because there was actual wind, weather, etc. But the same thing here. We were going to talk about this. Everyone says how fast and firm it is out there. It's going to play that way. It's the USGA. What would you expect different? So this is the setup where sometimes it gets a little hotter. It bakes out a little more. It's harder to make that cut line. People make mistakes. All of that. I definitely love targeting the AM just in general any given week, but especially at majors.
All right. One and done picks. We had the guy in the playoff last week. Unfortunately, he was watching the playoff because we had Shane Lowry. It was I mean, where we're out of the money, I think it was still good strategy because he was very lowly owned. We just needed him to come through.
Yeah.
That's the hard part, as I'm finding out with this, that we need these guys to actually come through for us, and that's not happening right now. So here are our options for the U.S. Open. Brooks, Victor, Cam Smith are our best 3 players remaining. We've used everyone else at this point. Bryson, Fleetwood, and then it's like Rose, Connor, Day, Ricky, like that range of guy.
Yeah, this might surprise you because we just talked outside before the show, but the Brooks one feels chasey. I feel like you almost have to in some cases. People are going to do it. It's the better spot for him. You missed him last one.
You're going to use him here, or you're going to use him at the Open?
Although his joke that he'll see you at the Travelers next week to the media was quite funny yesterday with all that's going on, but it's for another show. But in general, Cam Smith might be the one that's a little bit more interesting here. What's the ownership difference, though, or what people have left on Koepka versus Cam?
Koepka, 77% of people have him remaining, and Cam Smith, 86%. So
it's close. I think Koepka is the one that drops like a rock this week.
Oh, of course. I mean,
the spot coming off the major win. So.
It's funny, like looking, like if you were just to go into this without doing any research and overthinking everything, like who would be the 2 most popular bets of the week coming in? If you just asked my dad, who just kind of Koepka and Hovland, I think would be the 2, right? And
yeah, I think so. I mean, Koepka for sure, but Hovland, we'll talk about him after. I guess I'm more interested in your Cam Smith sales pitch because I didn't love him. You talked about him a little outside. We were talking about it. The reason I don't want to go Koepka is not just to fade him because of that, but whatever. But at the end of the day, if we need to make up ground, and we do, even though there's more people that have Cam Smith left, I think it's just going to be huge of that 77% that hop on Brooks this week because they missed the PGA Championship. It's the last one they want before the Open. It makes more sense. So it's just the obvious. But what do you love about Cam Smith here? Because I wasn't super high on him coming in, besides some ownership thoughts and some creativity and things like that. But give your Cam Smith spiel.
Well, I have 2 things on it. And if the biggest drawback to Cam Smith is that when you historically look at the U.S. Open and U.S. Open winners, by and large, they are fantastic drivers of the ball. Cam Smith is not a fantastic driver of the ball. So that's inherently problematic when we first start thinking about it. However, I think I will stand by the claim that I think that once you get off the tee, he's the best player in the world. He's like good Spieth.
Yeah, more consistent good Spieth.
Yeah, consistent good Spieth. Like the approach play is amazing. The around the green is amazing. The putting is amazing. I mean, that can always flip back the other way.
The hair, the moxie, just being able to get the job done. What he did at the Open last year was very impressive. So
it was.
Players, too.
So when you take a look at this course, I think 2 things really stick out to me. One is that the fairways are really wide, but you need to be able to put it into a certain place that you don't get a runoff into the rough. And then just because they're 40 yards wide doesn't mean everyone's going to hit fairways. So that could really be a problem for him when it comes down to it. However, when you take a look at these fairways, and they're quite contoured and quite angled, you're not going to get a flat lie at all on this course. And I'm just trying to rack my brain, like, what are the other courses that are like that? Well, Kapalua is like that. The John Deere Classic is like that. The Masters is like that. And St. Andrews is like that. Most of the Open Championship venues are very much like that. Well, he won Kapalua last year. He won the Open Championship last year, has one of the better track records at the Masters of any of these guys. And if this really does become a putting contest, which a lot of people are saying that it might be, because these greens are so big that you're going to have a lot of these like 80-foot putts that you need to lag up. And then you have to make your 7-footer for par over and over. When you like make the short list of guys that I trust to do that, whether he does it or not is kind of irrelevant because we're trying to make picks beforehand, that Cam Smith has to be at the top of that list.
Yeah, I definitely agree with all that. I mean, so you did a good sell job there because in general, putting all those courses together, the course comps you mentioned, just again, the other factor of par is a number, but being a good scorer in most cases, he can find that way. If he's in a spot where he's not supposed to be, he actually isn't some guy that I expect. So, for example, when we'll get to DFS later, this ties into it, though, is Hatton is 8,900, Cam Smith is 9. It looks like Cam Smith could be half the ownership or somewhere 6 to 7% underneath him. If Hatton gets in a bad place, I know he's coming off an incredible round and some incredible stuff in these events that are tougher fields, stronger fields, harder courses, but he's a guy that I could see just freaking out versus Cam Smith will just find his shot out, take his medicine, and move on. And if he just chips away at it, he can find his way back into the mix. So I can definitely be sold, and when we get to it later, but for one and done, I feel good about that. Who's the one other guy you said we had? Hovland?
Yeah.
Where are we at on that? Because that's a good discussion to start it off because he's going to be a topic of discussion later anyway.
He's 36% remaining. So inevitably, he's not going, like, he can't be that highly owned when you take a look at some of the other options around him. It's just like if you had Cantlay left. Like Cantlay would be a great play this week. Not that I love Cantlay, but he's only available in 15% of leagues now. Like just no one has access to him in the one and done. So fewer people have access to him in the one and done than a lot of the top end players in terms of Hovland. The problem is of those 36%, probably like 70% are going to use Hovland because this is their spot to use him.
Yeah. I think I'm more sold on Smith.
Yeah, I think that when you break it down, and very good sell job by me on it, obviously. I've been working on some of these numbers and trying to construct the good argument.
I'm excited for the rest of the show now. That was a hot start.
The problem is, like I said, like if this just turns into you need to be awesome off the tee box to win, and that's the only chance you have, be it like a winged foot or hell, what was last year?
Brookline
wasn't as bad, but it did translate that way. I was thinking when Brooks won, Shinnecock Hills. Mm-hmm. Like that was one where you had to be awesome off the tee. Like everyone at the top of the leaderboard were great drivers of the ball. If this one can just be a little bit different, and we've seen that sometimes from first-time venues, that I think that all of a sudden Cam Smith's skill set becomes the skill set that you might want to have.
Yeah, one thing's nice. I did run a couple different things coming into this show just to be ready for it and looked at sort of your classic, what we would expect, versus let's change it up and say this new venue is way more about the accuracy, way more about the around the green scrambling, that sort of stuff. Cam Smith does rate out pretty similar in both, surprisingly, even though he should be a little more to that one. It's just this is all as of late, all that stuff. So he stays. The difference is some guys drop off completely. Like there's some guys that go way down. There's some guys that go way up. So the ones that go down, of course, are those sort of value plays down at the bottom that are, not, they're all driver. They're all off the tee. They're all that, to your point of building that way. So I have no problem if people go that way as well this week. If you want to do the old Ben Raza and build in sets and just say, I'm going to build some skill set lineups. Let's trust that it is a standard style US Open. The off the tee is very important. Let's just say that's the way it happens here. But at the same time, the other side looks pretty appetizing, and someone like Scotty somehow gets even better, right? Yeah. If it becomes that.
Like,
so
if you just want to do the pure off the tee hard course type player, here's your lineup: Scotty, Bryson, Keith Mitchell, Woodland, Luke List, Cantlay.
Yeah. And Bryson's a great example of someone who I think is getting a little love this week, is being talked about.
Well, there's two reasons for that, though. One is it's the U.S. Open, so off the tee makes a lot of sense. I think he has come inside the top 10 of 2 of the past 3 majors. He was top 10 at St. Andrews last year. I think people forget that. Yeah. I think he was just top 10 at Oak Hill. And then there's been so much brought up about how this is real thinking man's course. Like you need a real strategy here. And the one thing that I do like about Bryson is that he approaches every event like that. He's not right a lot of the time with the strategy, but he always does have a strategy, where I feel like Scotty Scheffler has no strategy. He's just like, I'm going to hit as far as I can, and it's probably going to go straight, and maybe I can make some putts. And that works out much better because he's a lot better. But I do think that, we saw it at Winged Foot, and we saw it at API one year as well with thick Bermuda rough, like we're going to see this week with Bryson. But if he picks a strategy that works, he'll probably be the only guy with that strategy.
Yeah, it's if he gets it right. That's the thing. I just don't remember.
He's sort of like a GPP player in a lot of ways. Like, between these two guys, like I think they're kind of similar. This guy might be a little bit better, but he's 8 times his own. I'll take the other guy. That's kind of Bryson's strategy.
Man, just on fire right now. From the Cam Smith sell job to now the GPP player analogy is exactly it, though. Because like I said, if he picks the strategy, he knows he's getting it wrong a bunch of the times. But when he's right, wins API, wins the U.S. Open with his strategy of not just bulking up and getting that way, but then just bomb and gouging the hell out of that place. So I think in general, that's my thought. But like you said, someone that just falls off a cliff when you go away from that model to now you need everything with it. And some of the stuff too, we've seen him at courses. Isn't it I think it was Kapalua, where everyone was like setting Bryson up that year, like, oh, with elevation and his math and the mad scientist, he's going to figure this all out. And then it was horrendous. So like you said, sometimes the strategy works, sometimes it doesn't, but that would be an example. And Cam Smith's sort of good no matter what across the board. So
that's what I really like about him, is that if it does play, because we've seen him compete at Riviera as well. I mean, it's not it's the same city, it's the same course designer. There's going to be crossover elements of it. But Ricky Fowler was talking about yesterday, if they have that, I think it's number 15, number 14, the really short par 3, that they have a pin in a certain position. He's like, I'm just going to lay up.
Yeah, he said he was going to do it. I think a couple guys said that, and people are like, you got to place the pin this way. I can't wait to see this because it's going to be so awesome. I'm excited to watch this one.
But that's a real strategy, though. Like, if you think a hole that short, you need, like, that's a birdie hole. You got to go with the birdie hole. But if Ricky's like, yeah, but you might be able to birdie it, but you might birdie it 1 of 10 times, or you might triple bogey it 4 out of 10 times.
Yeah.
Why not just lay up and make par?
And if you get lucky, yeah, exactly. I agree with you, but the setup is going to be awesome either way. I was going to ask you something else, actually. The other one I wanted to hit you up before because we didn't talk about it yet was the Fleetwood versus Rose last week.
And the answer was both?
Yeah, who is that? If that was a segment this week, who would that be? Because I was just going to say, is it Smith, who we're on topic of, versus Spieth?
Well, I think if you're building it that way, I mean, they do have very comparable skill sets, I think. Like, Spieth is better off the tee. Like, Spieth has actually gotten good off the tee over the past year and a half or so, now that his swing changes. It's funny when we think about these swing changes, because Ricky went through the same thing. Like, I think it was 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, he went through the swing change to adapt his game, and he was just dog shit for 18 months. And now he's, like, kind of good again. Same thing happened to Spieth. Like, he changed his swing, and he was horrible. And then it kind of worked, and now he's improved. Like, he doesn't quite have the approach game. He's lost some of the magic beans on the greens. He still has the magic beans chipping, but the putter just isn't great like it used to be.
Yeah.
But that happens. Like, Webb Simpson at one point was the best putter in the world, and then he was the worst putter in the world. And then all of a sudden he was the best putter in the world again. Yeah, once he went to the long one. They took away the long one, he went to the short one, and then all of a sudden it clicked back for him. Adam Scott's another one. Like, he's a good putter now.
He's been a little more consistent right now, too. Him and Siwoo are two guys right now that have definitely been more consistent than what you would usually expect. But that's what I was just thinking of when you said the Cam Smith thing, and we were on that note. I was going to say the him versus him, and it's the setup of who would be the guys that are the same probably and just play both. Spieth is another guy that rates out, actually gets a little bit better when we move to the accuracy plus scrambling.
Really?
Plus all that.
Yeah, plus scrambling, yeah.
That's why. It's just because of that. Again, it's all going to come down to who makes the putts there, but that kind of little trio range of Spieth, Smith, and even Fitzpatrick in there, who's the defending U.S. Open champion, much different course, but just in general, that actually is quite interesting when you think of guys above like Xander, Homa, Rory, Hovland, Cantlay, what everyone else is going to be looking at there. Those three guys could all really pop.
This is tough for me because I know I'm going to end up talking myself into playing him because I'm going to do a few. Listen, I think he'd be crazy if this ends up playing difficult. In like -7, -6 is the winning score, which I think that most people are predicting. Only Cuss is the one predicting it's like -17 or something like that. But I mean, listen, if he's right, then it's a completely different style of player that we should have been targeting the entire time. And maybe that's a different angle that you want to take. But Brooks' strategy, like, the setup is going to be in such a way that there's going to be absolute sucker pins on this course, and you just can't hit the ball near it. You need to hit it to 30 feet. Maybe you make your putt, like whatever, you just 2-putt for par, move on, try to score on the par 5s or that short par 4, whatever it might be. Brooks is never tempted by a sucker pin. He's just going to hit it to the middle of the green and 2-putt. And he makes some long putts. Like DJ's kind of the same way too. And that's what I worry about with Scheffler and Cam Smith in a weird way, is that they're just going to fire at the pins because that's what they do.
Yeah. I mean, with Scheffler, I think he gets away with a lot more because
he's so good.
What he's been doing, right? You talking about earlier, it's not even a strategy. When you know you're that good, you just play your game. But for Cam, I guess that could be a takeaway, but I think wrapping up the one and done conversation, I'm more than comfortable with him, even though he's 10 or 11% higher or whatever it was than Brooks. Brooks gets used so heavily this week for good reason, but I think we go with Cam Smith.
I saved Rahm for this spot for my 3-man with Jeff. Just I like Rahm the best of all the top guys.
Yeah.
I think that he kind of fits that formula too of Rahm's sort of a hybrid between Brooks and Scotty in a weird way because his talent level is, him and Scotty are probably the two, and Rory, I guess, but
Rahm is like the thinking man Scotty, though, to your point. You have to go back to the U.S. Open when he buried Louis out of that bunker. That's pretty crazy decision to make, but he just knew it was the right one, and everyone gives him shit for being a head case, but that's a little bit in the past now. He still gets fired up.
He's won 2 majors since
he's a fiery dude, I'm just saying, but obviously the talent is unheard of up there with Scotty. It's back and forth, but he is very good at getting around these courses and just thinking it through. The Memorial was like a T16. People are going to talk about Scotty's putter. I think Rahm lost 3 strokes on Saturday. On Saturday, I'm saying, and throughout. So, this is exactly the setup that you want for those guys. It's hard to make a case there. It really is about, when we talk through that range, of Brooks, Cantlay, Hovland, when you have Scotty and Rahm right there at the top.
Yeah, I'm looking right now. Strokes gained short game sorted on fantasynational.com. I am giving away a free membership yearly to fantasynational.com. It's the same way that you get into it. You sub to the channel. The newsletter with all the final bets and more info is coming out later on this evening. That's free to subscribe to down in the comments section right now and in the description. That gets you 8 ballots in the draw. But again, the Apple reviews, the Spotify reviews, those get you 15 a piece to go to. So please go sub, rate, and review. preview the Pat Mayo Experience audio podcast and get in that. I'll announce the winner on that. But I'm looking at it past 24 rounds on courses that play difficult relative to par. Before I forget, Taylor Montgomery was the guy I was going to bring up. For just as a random guy to play that no one is playing. If off the tee means everything and putting means everything, like those are literally the only two things that he does well.
What's his pricing in?
I think it's 74.
Yeah, I deleted him off my sheet, so I'd have to add him back.
Yeah, so past rounds, difficult relative to par courses, strokes gained short game, which accounts for around the green plus putting. And I don't know how much around the green is going to make a difference this week, because you might just find yourself in the world's worst lie, and then there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, that can happen here, and people have already talked about it, that's going to be the case. Some of these, the ball, you saw it, like I know that we do the old disappearing act of everything and all the Twitter videos and stuff that people have to show off the rough, but there's definitely players that have already commented on that fact that there's going to be some luck factor to what your lie is in these spots. So, I mean, it's pretty standard at U.S. Opens, but especially something like this where the rough is the way it is. So I think that's, just one of the things when you go out to these places.
So here are the guys that perform the best in those situations, chipping and putting. Day, Svensson, Fleetwood, Putnam, Cam Smith, Taylor Montgomery, Justin Suh, Max Homa, Rory, Denny, Bryson is the top of that list. Then Wyndham Clark. There he is. Then you got your Hattons, Schauffele, Thigala, Burns, Hovland, Rose, Keegan. I love Keegan this week, by the way. Patrick Reed is another one, another guy that I'm most definitely playing. Fitzpatrick, Finau, Taylor Moore. Taylor Moore is actually very interesting, I think. We were on him at Oak Hill, and I think that he did play really well until Sunday, and I think he shot like 85.
Oh, yeah, that's what's funny, because you said 7,400 for Taylor Montgomery, and I was like, I got another Taylor Mo there, and that's who I had start up. It says same price, 7,400, Taylor Moore.
Montgomery versus Moore is the answer to play them both. Is that the answer?
Oh, gosh. Is this the play them both spot? Man, nobody's going to be on either of these guys. Just a note there. We're talking 2% or less probably on both.
Yeah, but it's been, for him all year, it's been great driver of the ball, great on the greens. He's around like field average chipping, and the approach goes like really bad to really good. There doesn't seem to be much of an in-between. So if you can catch him on a good week, how much are you putting stock into? I don't want to say that Max Homa holds the course record, so obviously he's a good play. I don't think that hurts him, though. Like, it now, like, the narrative has shifted because, I mean, he does have 2 top 10s in his past 3 starts, but he's not the guy that we saw earlier on this year. That it almost seems to be being held against him at this point, which is really bizarre. Like, at least, like, Thigala's played this course 30 times. I think that's an advantage. I'm sorry. Like, just playing a course, if this isn't the first time you've ever seen it, I feel like that's an advantage.
I value 30 rounds on the course, if true, versus he shot a 61 here one time.
I mean, but he's also playing.
It's Max Homa. If you want to play him at 10% or 8% or whatever he comes in at, it makes sense. I get it. I'm saying, but that narrative is probably the worst one versus when, like you said, when someone's seen it 30 times versus somebody one time went out and shot a 61.
Sure,
on a
but
course.
he did play the tournament here. I'm sure he's played it outside of
well,
that
even
tournament.
then, here's the other angle. People talk, Walker Cup. And then Morikawa came out and said, he's like, it's not even close to the same setup at all.
Well, it won't be because it's
Walker,
USGA. But the difference is going to be, like, there's minute differences in that. Like, the rough length is going to be different. The pins are going to be different. But you'd be hard-pressed to say there is no advantage of someone having seen a course a bunch, at least in a competitive scenario, even if some of the elements are a little bit different.
Yeah.
Rather than, hey, I just showed up this week. It's the first time I'm seeing it.
Course history can matter in certain places, especially matters at certain tournaments like the Masters. We talk about at the Sony Open, things like that. But I'm just saying, when Max Homa's T10 on Saturday or something, people are like, see, they told you the guy that had the course record would come out and play good. It's like, that's not why he came out and played good.
It's probably because he's playing well.
He's just playing good golf, yeah. But I do hear where you're coming from.
But even if it's something as simple as, hey, I've played 8 rounds here before. I know you can't hit it over there. And you'll never see it, but that might save you a shot or two throughout the course of the first 2 rounds. And that helps you make the cut. Like, I think there is some value to that knowledge.
Yeah, there definitely is. Thigala's a good conversation piece. He's at 7,600.
I like him, too. I like that.
I like him anyway, though, but you and I literally had this conversation last week, talking about when we thought, early on last week, we recorded a little bit earlier last week. By Wednesday, it changed gears when I talked on the show on Ship It Nation. We did talk about how the scoring looked like it was going to be a little bit harder than what it was originally thought to be at the start of the week. But Thigala is 6 bogeys, 6 birdies, break even. Not ideal when the winning score is going to be 20 under, and he hadn't had great results at John Deere and some of these tougher places, these easier courses. But at tougher courses, he was showing up and doing well, and that's the same thing here. If he wants to go out and put up couple double bogeys, and then make 4 birdies and get back to even, that's going to play just fine here and find his way up. And then he only really needs one good day after he makes the cut over the weekend to squeak his way up the board. And at 7,600, I think he can do that. The 30 rounds in hand would definitely help his case.
Let's go to birdies and bogeys on fantasynational.com/Mayo to get that 20% off. Smash the like if you're watching live out here as well, or even if you're not watching live, you should still smash the like anyway. Average per round on difficult courses, birdies or better gain. Oh, Barclay Brown in 1 round is top of the field. That's great news. Theegala's number 2.
Yeah, there you go.
It's Theegala, Scotty, Rory, Hovland, Wyndham Clark, Neiman, Keegan.
Neiman, man. Neiman keeps popping
I
up,
love
too.
Neiman this week, man. He's going to shoot like a million over par, but I just love him.
Yeah, it's worth. It's not like you have to factor in too much. It's boom bust at 7,700 or whatever he is.
If he hadn't went to live, how much do you think his salary would be this week?
I don't know.
I
They
feel
always
like
underpriced him anyway. But
I know, but I feel like he'd be high 8s. I feel like he'd be in that Finau, Lowry, Matsuyama type range.
I don't
It's just
see
like
it.
Cam Smith. Like if Cam Smith hadn't gone to live, he'd be a 10K player this week.
It would have depended a lot on what they did in between.
Sure.
But Neiman does feel right here, to be honest, either or. Because I just can't put... here's the crazy part. It's like JT, Finau, Hatton range. Could Neiman get in there? Maybe, but I don't know.
Well, think about it this way. Like Cam Young has been shit for 3 months, and he's still $8,000.
Then maybe I'm just being more sold on the fact that these guys in the 8K range seem underpriced. Like Finau and JT are 87 and 8,800. And then Fleetwood, Connors, Neiman... Who else? Keegan? I don't know. You like Keegan, but just something like these guys are only 1,000 less or worse in some cases. You know what I mean? Fleetwood's 79. Justin Thomas is 8,700. One guy's never even won on the PGA Tour, still lost another one last week and choked it away, playing absolutely ridiculously bad. It's played the same way. I don't care what people say. Like you got to switch it up a little bit in that spot. It ain't working. And then you go back, and now you got JT at 8,700, and it looks like almost nobody wants to play him. 2-time major winner. Like, I don't know. That just makes me think that. And then you talked earlier about how people just aren't going to this 8K range. And even right there, I think people are much more likely to go to Hideki or Hatton in that spot. So JT, Finau, 2 of the guys that stand out there.
We've started the discussion about DraftKings
I always try and start it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so do I. No, because I think it's a part of the conversation that we were having
For
anyway.
sure.
We just kind of translated into 2 minutes of one and done to 20 minutes of DraftKings. But when people go to the time codes, if they want to rewind about 15 minutes, they'll probably find more DraftKings talk, or after the advertisement for Factor. Go to Factor. What was it? Factor Foods, whatever it is. It's a new meal kit, and it's like super. One thing I've been having like problems with meal kits is, yeah, it's nice that it gets delivered to your door and everything. You still got to spend like 30 minutes cooking it. Factor, not at all.
Does Factor come with a very supportive wife?
It does come with a very supportive wife, but it's all like when they send you the peppers for some of them, like you got to cut up the peppers and you got to do this. That's all done for you with Factor. So
I like that.
Mayo 50 is the code. You get 50% off your first order. If people are curious about that, I love meal kits because. I don't want to be running to the grocery store.
We do it 4 to 5 for Monday to Friday, and the weekend just figure it out.
If you're busy, it's perfect.
Yeah.
Because, I kind of compared it to like Netflix, where you can sit there on Netflix. There's a great Arnold documentary on Netflix, 3-parter. Okay. Highly recommend.
I'm in the Conor McGregor one right now, McGregor Forever, but I'll go to that
fuck
next.
Conor McGregor. You want the Arnold? Get in the chopper.
All right, I'll do it.
So you can, but if you don't know what you want to watch on Netflix, right? That it might take you an hour to pick something.
Oh, yeah.
I find the same thing happens to me with dinner. Like, my wife and I will talk about, do you want this? No. Do you want this? No. It's like, okay, let's order. Do you want Indian? No. Like, I always want Chinese. She hates Chinese food, so we never order Chinese, but I always bring it up. Yeah. And then we spend like an hour trying to pick something to eat. At least when you get the meal kit sent to you, you've pre-picked it, so you're like, oh, Monday, that one.
And they're good options, and they're healthy, and it's the right serving size. Groceries are already expensive, so there you go. There's the promo. I like it. I'm in 4 or 5 nights of the week. That's what we're doing. I just am very lucky and thankful to have Megan, who's upstairs, making it for me while I'm working, and then I can pop up and eat it and say hi to the kids and then go back down to work. So works out good that way.
I do want to throw out that I thought this week of U.S. Open shows was by far our best for the major championship so far this year.
Did you like Kenny's story?
Kenny's story was amazing.
He tells them the disclaimer that it's to hide your kids, hide your wife, everything, the ears. Tells the story that definitely that was suited for. Inserts one small segment and then goes right back to describing the greens here as the cock and balls. So yeah, Kenny, classic stuff. Fantasy Golf Degenerates. Check it out if you haven't already.
For sure. Factormeals.com/Mayo50 is to get 50% off your first box is the way you want to do it. Get your box. Don't get kicked in the box. Get a box sent to your house. Factormeals.com/Mayo50. And I got one. I'm recording tomorrow morning with my old instructor from college about the athletic layoffs of people and just layoffs in sports media in general. So it's completely change of pace for the show tomorrow, but he's been through a lot of these rounds. He was the managing editor at Yahoo Sports for a long time. So he's got some real insight to that. I'm very happy to be able to pick his brain about that. So if that's something people want to tune into, like I said, it's not going to be U.S. Open picks. No. U.S. Open has started, but you need something to listen to. Highly recommend that you do it. Then sub, rate, and review the audio podcast.
Instructor of what exactly?
He was the new media instructor when I was
awesome.
When I was in college.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be a good one. And then, of course, get your round 2 showdown show.
Yeah, round 2 showdown and then round 3 showdown along with the Cut Sweat Live. We got it all going on for you.
It's a good week.
This week. So I'll tell you the DraftKings lineup that I made. Because I always tell you I have that free contest that I play in with like a league of people.
Build it before you forget it. Yeah.
Build it. First thing, like I get sent the email. It's like I'm going to go just fill out a lineup. Okay. So, because I've missed it like 3 times already this year. Yeah. Because it gets put down at the bottom of my app screen, then I just forget about it.
The only thing is it comes out after you record your research video where you have delved into Fantasy National a little bit already.
Yeah, like I know like gotcha. I had my idea of what I want to do, but it's like before like you and I talk. And I don't really finalize any of my lineups until you and I talk.
So what's the first thoughts Pat Mayo lineup of the week?
John Rahm.
Okay.
Basically, the 4 guys I bet to win are all in the lineup, which I think is, I like to do that if I'm going to bet on them to win. I know it's not always the same thing, but Rahm, Cam Smith, Neiman, and Mito, Fleetwood, and Justin Suh was my first thought of the week. And that's before I thought about ownership, anything like that. Just give me, what are my first thoughts? How does this fit? Who do I like? And those are the ones.
I'm an idiot. Let me flip this. I'll be there in a second.
You're there?
I'll be there in a second. So it was
Rahm.
Yeah, I got the first 5. I'll figure in Fleetwood. I got them all. Just going to enter them quickly, and then we'll compare off of this one as we go through the rest. Suh was an interesting play coming into the week, too. I think he would have been a lot more. It doesn't look like he's getting any ownership. We thought he was going to be owned at that price point, but I also thought he would have been like 6,800.
I like him this week.
And then the 2 Chilean sensations, Neiman and Mito. All right, we got it. We're in. Ownership's not that high on it either overall.
I wouldn't think so because Rahm instead of Scotty is saving you a little bit. I don't know how owned Neiman is going to be versus some of the other guys in his range.
Sub 10%.
Yeah.
So you're fine.
And like Mito's going to be owned, but it's not like he's 20% owned. And so, like you said, it's not really coming in. Tommy's probably the only one that's, even him, was he going to be like 13% owned?
I think higher than that.
Higher than that?
Yeah.
Like I could switch on to Connors or Tom Kim or Rose.
You don't have to though. Like
no.
Again, like you said, you're already different there. But I definitely have Tommy in pushing 17 to 20.
Theegala instead of Fowler is the play of the week, I think.
Or both.
Or both, maybe. Like it's not that I dislike Ricky, but Ricky's going to be more than double his ownership. Mm-hmm. And we've seen Theegala actually compete in some of these.
You want to know what's crazy about that lineup you just built?
Okay, let's hear it.
We just drop the ownership down from Fleetwood to Theegala.
And then we can go up from Suh?
No, you go Rahm up to Scheffler.
Why not? But I want to play Rahm.
All right. Well, then let's go off of Suh. If he's the next guy in line that you'd be willing to cut. Oh, it's $100 short of doing what we just said and playing both of them, which was Ricky. But you can go to
I can get Taylor Montgomery.
Taylor Moore or Taylor Montgomery?
Yeah, I'd like to get up to, I would like to get that extra $100 or $200 to get up to either Keegan or Reed in this lineup.
Reed over Fowler.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's you just need $100.
So could we drop Mito? Could we drop Mito, keep Suh, and then get up to Patrick Reed?
Yes.
So drop Mito, keep Suh. I mean, I like Sergio down here too at $7,000. So that's a way to get up to the 76 if you really wanted to do it. But now it's Rahm, Cam Smith, Theegala, Neiman, Suh, and Patrick Reed.
Yeah.
I don't think you need to, again, just to hash this out again, that I don't think that you need to use the $7,000 like number as a line of demarcation between good plays and bad plays or safe plays and risky plays. Like there are guys in the high $6,000 area that are legitimately no different than the guys.
You're preaching this forever. That's what people do though, and like people are literally going into their optimizers in some cases and limiting the amount of 6K guys they can get, like building a group and saying at most one. I don't want any more because they're 6K. It has nothing to like 67 through 69 is the same. Even this week, DraftKings jammed 16 guys with the addition of Emiliano Grillo at 7,000 just to 7,100. So just those 2 price points have 16 guys at them. So it's like they just can't fit anymore. But these guys at 6,900, like Kuchar, could be 7,200 here, and I wouldn't blink. He's 6,900. That's an example. Why would you be limiting your 6K guys to one 6K guy when it really has nothing to do with the price denoted beside their name? So
I don't know. Well, you said you had like basically made 15 stars on guys in the 6K range.
yeah.
So let's talk about those guys.
Some guys that I'm looking at, so Kuchar leads it off.
The cream of Samya?
Just talked about that. I mean, Kuchar's another guy that we talked about. Siwoo Kim, Adam Scott, guys that have Ricky Fowler having a little bit more consistency this year. Kuchar has actually been doing it as well. And then you think of some of the classic setups, the Thinking Man's courses, things like that. He can definitely find his way around, and especially if it's not going to just be off the tee, drivers only, et cetera, et cetera.
Did you see? I saw Torpix Joe tweeted this out, like retweeted it, that Kuchar's former caddy is doing like USGA and Golf Channel like live breakdowns of the hole. It was fucking incredible.
John Wood?
I don't know who it was.
I forget who it is. I think I did see this.
Yeah, he was breaking down the drivable par 4 and like the different spots where you can hit it, then the different options that you have with the different pin placement. I was like, make this a show every week where this guy just walks the course and gives me all 18 holes. Like, this would be fucking fantastic. I would watch that every single time.
The players love it too, man. You get out there and that's the guys that have no experience on the course that can go and take away from that. It's back to your DFS analogy of Bryson being a DFS player, in this case, a GPP player. I think that's what a lot of good DFS players do. They listen to the content to find out what everybody else is doing, what you can do, and how it shapes out, and then they go and apply that, and that's really what I think that they're doing there. So that's good stuff. He was on the list. Patrick Rogers, I think, will get some ownership, but he's definitely being brought up. Harmon, if you wanted another grinder type like Kuchar. And
good U.S. Open history, too, weirdly enough, for Brian Harmon.
I think it's just the fact that, like you said, when you talked about Cam Smith, again, this is priced into this guy at 6,900. But if you have a guy that just needs to make these 5 to 7 footers, typically won't always work, but it's not. It's a guy that you can just go to there and he just grinds his way through, man. So you got to think about that.
What do you make of Kitayama?
Liked him more to start. Him and So were 2 guys I like to start the week a little bit more. That I don't know why specifically that I would be off. It's not like they're getting a bunch of ownership or anything like that. Kitayama's take is that he won API. And then also at
Came top 5 at the PGA Championship.
He was part of that. Him and Cam Davis, Sepp Straka, I think were the 3 that like grinded their way into the final at the end.
And Cam Smith.
And Cam Smith. Yeah, I'm talking value plays that found their way up the board on Sunday because position placement points are so important in these.
I just look at the course. I mean, he didn't play well at Wells Fargo. He missed the cut there. And listen, there's a reason that he's down here in pricing. But he fits the mold of great drivers. He's been bad lately, but historically he actually has been quite good off the tee. Mm-hmm. But if he can get the putter rolling, like the approach play can get crazy good. He played well earlier this year. He played well at Pebble.
Yeah.
So California bit, but like long, hard courses. Arnold Palmer and PGA Championship.
If you want to know if he can lag it, go watch that the last putt before the winning putt at the API. Remember that?
He almost
drained it. So Nick Taylor, by the way, maybe we get on his 72-foot eagle. He's up there. But no, going back down, I think people go to Peters.
I like Peters.
He looks fine. A Moronk, I understand the field got a lot stronger, but almost what is it, $1,900 price drop?
I'm in.
Okay,
I'm
sold.
Mac Hughes?
No.
He's been so bad.
He would fit the grinder mold of like the Harmon Kuchar, even though that's not exactly what he is. I'm saying, but he's kind of, people will say he's like a cheaper Spieth. We always call him the Canadian Spieth. He's going to find the magic beans, mix his way around here. It wouldn't, and he makes the long putts. So really he would fit that mold. What is he, 6,600?
Yeah.
I might take another look. The only reason is, what do you see the ownership on Sam Stevens?
It's difficult.
Not enough to matter, but I'm just curious.
I was going to say like 4% is what my guess was. Like, I'm playing Sam Stevens. Like Fantasy National has him at 7%. But that's because people ran stats on Fantasy National, and when they looked at it, it's like, holy shit, this guy's good.
Yeah.
He also can't chip or putt, so keep that in mind. He's kind of like Luke List in a lot of ways.
He definitely fits the off the tee model only that we were talking about earlier, and he takes a bit of a drop off when you switch it up. So.
I'm looking at the Fantasy National simulator right now, and if we just do, let's say, top 20s. And sort by top.
I got one more, but
okay, give me the one more.
Andrew Putnam, you mentioned him on some list earlier. Another guy that already fit the a little bit of the first model, but really fits it when you switch it up to the accuracy, the around the greens, the putter, that sort of thing. So I don't mind him, and he has that PMT time if I'm targeting some of those lineups where I like to get a guy that can just grind the cut on Friday morning.
So in 1,000 simulations run at this course for the U.S. Open, it's going to give you the guys that you think that are going to be good at the top. It's Scheffler is far and away better than everyone else. And then it's Rahm, who's far and away better than everyone else. Then it's like Xander, Cantlay, Morikawa, Hovland, Justin Thomas are like the next tier of guys
JT.
that the simulator loves. Then you go down, it's like Rory, Hideki, Bryson, Day, Neiman is actually up there quite a bit. Adam Scott. And then Sam Stevens is the best of the 6K guys.
I think the simulator always likes him.
It does, but
It makes sense. I get it.
Munoz is another one that the simulator really likes.
First round leader bet.
Probably should get in on that. Who are some other 6K? Like, then there's like Carson Young, Taylor Pendrith, Gordon Sargent. Not gonna do that one.
We can go back to the well on him at 61.
And then Wilco, who
Ninabar.
we were talking about before the show as well, because Sky had brought him up.
Yeah, I think, again, he's definitely more of just the bombs away and see what happens. How much is Taylor Pendrith? I think I deleted him too and went with the other TP, Thomas Peters.
I believe he's $6,900.
All right, I'm going to add him back to look at him, focus in a little bit more.
$6,900
this afternoon.
How owned do you think that Patrick Rogers gets?
5%.
Okay, that's not bad.
Not enough to care, but I get it. People say in this range, no matter what, just avoid it. So
Yeah, but I don't think
to each their own. You definitely don't have to, but I'm just saying.
Like when you go back and look at like millionaire maker winning lineups, how many times is like the 0.2 guy in there? Rarely.
Yeah. Well, it's because the 0.2 guy is a 0.2 guy. No one played him. So it's hard for them to get in there even if they are that, because then you need everything else to go perfect, which is why oftentimes it doesn't make a lot of sense. I understand some people in their portfolio of MME lineups will put those guys in, because if you do get that outlier and the rest of your core that you were actually heavier on at the top, your 20 to 30% guys hit, that is the outlier that changes the game for you. Like, I don't know at the PGA Championship what Kitayama, or for example, Straka, probably a better example. Who played Straka at the PGA Championship? I don't remember many playing him, but he definitely grinded his way into a top 7 or something there. And at these events, this one, the most essential for this is the position placement points are just so important that it's whoever, has that lucky Saturday, Sunday type push to get into the mix. It's skill, but I'm saying like you need to get lucky that have those guys in your pool in the right lineup with the rest of the guys, and then have the winner hit plus that to be a lineup that wins the $1 million or something. So
Seb Straka, 0.5% owned at the PGA Championship.
Right. And I would have to go back and look. I know Rick posts out the optimal and stuff like that, like what it ended up actually being, because the other guys were there.
I like that we can go and look at the optimal, but I don't think it's super instructive to look at the optimal because no one's building the optimal.
Well, exactly that. I just meant like if that's the whole point, and why, like you said, back to the 0.2% factor, it's just not many people are going there. But then people ask all the time. You get this question. I get this question so often. How many people should be in my player pool for my 150 max for this Millie Maker or whatever? And the answer is, it could
as many as you want.
Yeah, like it's the guys that have 95 guys have these outliers, and if that is the case, that again they probably still didn't get to the optimal. But if they got the right version of that Sepp Straka lineup by having 1% to 2% of him, and he fell into the right lineup, that's why you would see those get to the top. And people say, "How the heck did that person know to have Sepp Straka?" They probably didn't. They just had him in the pool and let him slide in.
I think a more in-depth, not better, but in-depth discussion about this. I had Brian Hooper on about 2 weeks ago.
Brick 75.
Yeah, and he talked about this because he just runs simulations and trusts his numbers and tries. I asked him, I was like, at the PGA Championship, how many guys did you have in your player pool maxing 150? He's like, I don't know, like 75.
Yeah. He doesn't mind. I'm a big fan of his. He says he's a big fan of mine. He said he does care about me. When I say nobody cares, work harder, he says I care.
That's
Tambo.
That's very
he's such a nice guy. But he does talk about this quite often. Watch the Lal show. Watch some of the stuff. Anytime he gets on and does it. Obviously an incredible DFS player. But he mentioned that I think he does kick out some of the percentage guys, but I think he said, if I recall correctly, in golf, it doesn't matter as much because, like you said, he might just find that outlier. But in some of the other sports now, it's like, why bother having this guy for just the 1%? He'll sometimes just manually adjust that. So always looking to learn. That's the best part with this game. It's with golf, with DFS, with anything in life. I think just trying to get better at it and find your way. That's what it's all about. So
is Adam Schenk too obvious of a good play at $6,800?
Yeah, I think he's fine. He's going to fit into my pool. He was another guy I had down here. Start up again, late ad. To the pool,
but he's
1% to 2% right
like
now.
Fantasy National again is showing him at a good percentage because users are using Adam Schenk. I don't think that's going to be necessarily indicative of what his overall percentage is going to be. I think he's going to be like 3%.
Also, I think the
8.
way, correct me if I'm wrong, and it's a good system, but like when they star it, he's going to show up. But when they actually build, they may not get him into their builds because they're staying away from the 6K range. So it should be a delta there of people that actually like him and are like, let me look into this guy more. I like his stats. Maybe I'll play some of him, versus how do the roster constructions actually set up? As you and I have seen, most of them end in that 7K range.
If you wanted to fade the bottom of the 7K range and just play the upper end 6K guys, you can take whoever you want this week.
I have the other take. I'm opposite of you.
Really? You think that if you play the lower 7 guys, you get different at the top?
Well, there's just so many more. Like when you look at the top, you only have Fleetwood. He's getting ownership for sure. Connor's somewhere.
Oh, no, I don't mean of the 7K. I mean at the top of like
the total board.
You could play like Scheffler, Spieth, but you're using, I don't know, Putnam and Peters, and you're fine.
That's one lineup when we go to construction that I was going to talk to you about is if you go like your guys that you like, even Rahm, Cam Smith. We could go back to it and do it, really. That was what I was going to show you.
I wanted to finish off of the 6Ks before we got to that.
Okay. I was just going to say quickly then is that if you do that, for example, Rahm Smith ends in 7,500 average, so people just, what 7K guys do I love? If you get into the 8Ks, which going extremely overlooked, you land in these 6Ks where we just name these guys, so go back to it. But I'm just saying that's why I got no problem with that build, and that's a different style build.
So over 11,000 lineups have been generated so far on fantasynational.com. And this is the information you get when you're a member, fantasynational.com/Mayo, to get that 20% off and to get in the draw to win a free annual membership, giving away that on Monday. That Shank is starred by, where is it here? It's a lot. 23% of members have favorited Adam Shank this week. He has been generated of those 11,000 lineups and only 6% of them. And that's among members who, when you're looking at it, it's like, holy shit. It's like Sam Stevens. It's like, this guy's numbers look really good. Let's use him. That I think, again, it's probably going to be lower than 6%.
Yeah, if you give him like 3 or 4, 3.5 or something, if you want to do that. There's still a delta there, too, because the setup of they generated it, but they might generate 100 and take 20. Or they might be generating 20 to pick 1 or something like that. So
that I can't do. I play every lineup I generate.
Oh, you got the FOMO of when you build it out? Oh,
yeah.
You would hate to see what others do. Then some people generate thousands of lineups and then just take their 150 out of it or whatever, and you get a percentage that still gives you similar exposures. But yeah, this is a interesting topic. But I think, let's say even if he's at 3.5% or 4, who cares? Like if you like him, play him.
So of my 6K guys that we talked about, here's my list. It's a shorter list because I obviously don't play as many guys as you do. Michael Kim at $6,900. I do like. I think he's just playing well. And a guy who won at TPC Deer Run. Not afraid of some of these uneven lies, and I think he has some experience at the course as well. But just his game is back.
Twitter game is strong.
His Twitter game is very strong. Patrick Rogers, Adam Shank, Kitayama, Moronk and Peters, Sam Stevens, and I will be playing Sam Bennett.
I will not.
$6,500. I think when we take a look at the U.S. Open next year, Sam Bennett is probably going to be like an $8,000 player. I think that he's legitimately good.
$8,000 next year.
I think that he is going to be a good PGA Tour player. He's acquitted himself very well in the bigger tournaments so far this year, and his biggest strength is driving the ball. That if that's what we're going with, and that is going to be sort of not the outlier, but that's a differentiator between a lot of these guys. We know he can run it hot. He made the cut at the U.S. Open last year. Came inside the top 50. I think that he allows you to really, you don't need to use him, I think, unless you're using Scotty Rahm, Scotty Brooks, Rahm Brooks, or 2 guys above $10,000. I think he makes that work. And I've watched Rahm as an amateur play really well at the U.S. Open, the year that DJ won. I watched Morikawa and Hovland play really well as amateurs at the U.S. Open. When you get these hyped guys that are either turning professional, their last start as an amateur. It's like, what if Aberg was in this field? Now, Aberg's a better player than Bennett, but he'd probably be like $7,400, and we'd be thinking, he's probably pretty good here.
I would definitely be more interested in that.
But he'd be $1,000 more.
Sargent is $400 less.
Yeah, but Sargent's not good.
No, he's not good. Okay. We'll see about that. I'll say this. You said it's a thinking man's course. Well, Sam Bennett does a lot of thinking because he takes a long time to hit his shots. But you could argue that the other way is if he gets out of his element here on some of these spots and then the clock starts ticking and he's taking his time with it, I don't know if he's going to be in the mix. I just don't understand. Like, this range has definitely got better guys. Like, there's legit dudes. Kurt Kitayama, you just talked about, is only $300 more. I know you're playing them too.
But that's not the range, though. That's $300 more. Like, you need someone $6,500 and below to make some of these super stacks work.
It's most certainly the range when it's literally the difference of Scotty versus Rahm. It's $300.
But that might be a decision that people don't want to make. People might say, hey, I want Scotty. I don't want Rahm. I would rather take Bennett instead of taking Kitayama. Like, that trade-off's not worth it to me. A lot of people go through that.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. That's not what I go through. So I'm just saying that's the difference maker. I would still call it in the same range. But even then, I still like some of your other calls that you had around there better. Like you mentioned, who's the other guy? He said Moronk, 200. I guess if you won't give me that either, that's $200. But my point is, there's other players there that I would go to instead of Sam Bennett.
Let me ask you this: you have a 5-guy lineup that you really like, and you have $6,500 for a last spot.
Yeah.
So you can have $6,500 and below. If you're talking about, Wilco's down there. We mentioned Wilco.
Mm-hmm.
He could be the answer to this. You probably don't want Stuart Sink. I think that the popular answer is going to be Dylon Woo.
Yeah, I would play him too over him.
I don't know if I like Woo here.
I would play him over him. But again, this is the number one thing that I think people can take away, and there's definitely newer people watching this and people that are looking to get better at DFS, as we just chatted about earlier. That's the whole point. You never are forced to pick it. Oh, I'm on this guy, but who can I pick? I only have this left. No, you don't. You have a lineup that is not submitted yet. You can literally change anything. What you should be doing, especially in single entry, all this stuff, and taking away from these shows that you and I do. People say they love it because we'll balance these and look at 2v2s and see them all. You should be doing that with your own lineup in making those comparisons, finding out where you're comfortable and what you're putting your money behind, and roll it from there. So to your point, if I was forced, which you forced me in times and make me make a choice, yeah, I would go Woo over him still, but I would just get my lineup different. I would go Wilco.
You just wouldn't use any of them.
Yeah, or I would build differently. Like I said, I would just look to make the 2v2 that moves off it, and I would get up to your Kitayama point. Even if you're right, and it's not the same range, because technically it's not $300 more, it may not be the Rom to Scheffler one. Maybe it's the Fleetwood to Thigala one, who we talked about, or something like that. And like those, to me, are same spots and maybe better based on the thought process of ownership and setting it up that way. So I just think that's how I would look at it differently. But you did a good sell job on Cam Smith. Bennett,
not as
good
well.
Sell job. I'm just not sold.
You're not sold.
Go ahead. Good sell job. I'm not sold.
I'm just trying to hand out SJs over here. It's all I'm trying to do. Paul ran a poll in the live chat that's going on right now. It was, did you tail Top Cat's tip of bet on Albatross? Yes, at 16-1. With a resounding 94%. No, Cust is a lunatic was the winner.
Okay.
Which means Cust wins the poll because he got 6%.
Yeah.
Paul.
Since I dropped that into our group chat, it's 88-12, so I have to assume.
You know what? Show me your fucking tickets that you bet on there's going to be an Albatross.
No, but I have to assume that that Cuss sent his bots in to do the work to try to get those numbers.
That's why there's no more live bots, because they're all Cust bots now.
Yeah.
They vote in his polls for him. And that's it.
Oh, God, this is too much. I can't wait to see that. People will bet it, though, and if that happens, Twitter's going to explode.
Oh, man, if Cuss has some pretty... I will give him... I don't want to give him any credit until any of the stuff actually happens, but all of his takes are just in the face of what everyone else's takes are this week. That if he's right, we're never going to hear the end. Like, he'll ride that for 10 years. That he was kind of right about the 2023. He's still touting his Hideki winner at the Players the year it got canceled.
First round leader.
The first round wasn't even over yet.
Dominant first round performances.
He was up by 1. He's like, well, how could he lose?
Well, what if we get the Sam Bennett Albatross this week now?
Well,
after everything that's been said and done here. So we'll see what happens. Cust is going to be having a good week, though, if Clark comes through, because that's his main dude.
It is. So in terms of ownership, before we get to some of the lineup construction and then the Q&A period, if you've asked your question, well, you can fuck off. You can ask it again, because I'm not scrolling back to the very top and trying to go through everything. I'll let you know when you drop your questions in. Then we'll be fine on that front. To take a look at the 6K range, the most owned, or at least the ones generating the most interest. We didn't talk about Eckroat, who I think actually could be quite good here. Eric Cole is getting a ton of love. Don't see that here.
I took that one off my list. I do have... What was Eckroat's price again?
7,000. 7,000 for Eckroat.
Yeah, sorry, we were at 6s. Yeah, he's there at 7,000 for me. Because I think Min Woo is really popular here, for the price range.
I'm not saying that's what I would have expected, but I'm seeing Eckroat and Cole garnering more ownership right now.
Yeah,
Min Woo is a vastly superior player than those two guys.
Yeah.
Maybe Eckroat 2 years from now will be as good as Min Woo. Min Woo's like a top 40 player in the world.
Well, that and how well he's done in the majors, the big spots, all that stuff. He's come through plenty of times. Mito at 7,200 is another guy I like here that's solid. Cam Davis, this was an interesting one for me. He's 7. Again, we're moving up a little bit, but just to say, compared to Eric Cole and the guys you're talking about, if they beat me, I just move on. Like, that's what happens. They do pop up, though, in the list of good iron play recently and all that.
Short game, putting, yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily translate to U.S. Open, regardless of accuracy style U.S. Open versus bomb and gouge or whatever. My point is still there's a lot more that goes into it than just that. So I'm going to say it that way, but I definitely think there's some better guys that you could go to here.
Eric Cole is like living off gaining 4 strokes a week chipping.
He's been pretty good, man.
He has been pretty good.
It's impressive, sure, but I'm just saying I think there's a different setup here. There's a different standard to what you're going into and playing here that's where I'm just going to trusted. Like even if you want to take a shot on Gary Woodland, Russell Henley, ownership, McCarthy, ownership, Ryan Fox. We've played him in the past. Sepp Straka.
I like Ryan Fox.
Yeah, sure. These are probably better plays. That's what I'm saying, that you're just getting a little bit more out of your plays in this range than some of these guys that are just popular because of recent form.
So it's difficult to gauge what the actual number is going to be on ownership, but these are the 6K guys garnering attention at least right now over the other ones. Kuchar, Hadwin, Patrick Rogers, who's above those guys, Putnam, Shank, who's a little bit above those guys, Sam Stevens, who's a little bit above those guys, Sam Bennett, who's kind of on that level, but most certainly will not be as popular as Fantasy National is showing. And those are the guys, and Dylan Wu at $6,400.
What about your guy Lucas?
Hebert? I mean, he's kind of like the international but more successful version of Eric Cole, isn't he?
Yeah, that's actually a good one. He's 6,700. I just thought he was one that really got crushed if you go to like the accuracy model.
Oh, yeah.
But if you want to go back to the off the tee model and just have some of that stuff fitting
I
in
don't
there.
even think he's like, not only is he not accurate, I don't think he's long either.
It's not that. It's just, more when you factor in like the more U.S. Open style than if it's going to be, or sorry, I should say the classic U.S. Open style versus if it's going to be more of the accuracy setup. He did pop a little bit more for me there. He's one that gets a heavy drop off if you go to the other side.
Let's build some lineups. Let's build some Scotty lineups because Scotty is projected to be the highest owned from the very top end. A lot of people are starting. 25% of the field is going to start with Scotty Scheffler. So let's try to build the most common Scotty Scheffler lineup and work backwards from there. I think it's Scheffler, Spieth.
Okay. That leaves us.
Do you see it differently?
I actually don't. We didn't talk enough about this, but I don't know. Some of these things are interesting to me. Rory seems to be coming in a little lower than what you might think.
Rory might drop below 10%, I think.
I don't think about that, but I definitely think the Xander stuff has got a bit much, so Xander's picking up steam heavily. And Hovland versus Cantlay is also interesting.
I like your take. I think you're right that Cantlay will end up being higher owned than Hovland.
Yeah, that's my take, right? So here's the thing. Everyone I know that's sharp and that's on it, and I was thinking the same way as saying, like, let's get off Hovland here. Let's move away from him, and I'm fine with that. And this doesn't mean you have to play Hovland instead. I'm saying that the thought process is that let me just hop on a low-owned Cantlay, and all I keep seeing is people saying that. And now I also see on the projection sites and things out there where Cantlay is definitely rating out better. So maybe it's only in the higher stakes, maybe not. Maybe the $25 milli has a little bit closer, but I actually think we could see where Cantlay comes in at 15 to 16 and Hovland comes in at 14 to 15. Versus I think people have it right now as like 12 to 13 versus
20.
16 to 17, and that's just not how I see it. So that's my first hot take. The same thing is I think Rory gets affected by that because while people are deciding on Cantlay versus Hovland, we also know they're playing Xander. And at the start of the week, I would have thought Rory's 20 plus. Now it looks like it's more 15 to 20, leaning to the higher side of that 17, 18 range.
And whatever you make of whether you want to use Rory or not, the ownership is vastly affected by what happened on Sunday in Canada. If he wins, then he's totally 25%.
Yeah, totally different story here. And that's not to say there's not ways you can play those guys. I'm just saying in general, that's a thought I was having there. And then Spieth was one I was going to bring up. It's not that he's still going to be higher owned than Homa, Morikawa, Fitzpatrick, and Cam Smith. But what does he really actually get to is my
15,
question.
Probably?
I have him at 14.5 right now. So, yes.
So do you think Scheffler Xander is the start that people are going with?
I think so. That's
okay.
You walked into it. That's where I was going with it.
Okay, so Scheffler Xander.
And also because what it leaves.
It leaves you 70-50, which means you can.
So I think it's like, to me, I'm just saying what I think is common is like a Denny, Mito, Siwoo.
Mito, Denny, or Henley.
Henley fits in this mold. I think he fits in the exact build almost.
So
it leaves 200 to play around with whoever you think I got wrong.
Denny, Henley.
Siwoo, Mito is where I was aiming, but I think Siwoo could go up to a $7,500 guy like Ricky.
Oh, I think that's what people would do. If people have a chance to play Ricky, they're going to play Ricky.
And this projects like 45 points over here, original lineup. So this is definitely what people are doing. It projects that way because it's the popular
100%.
plays for good reason. But I think that's the setup here. So Scotty, Xander, and then you go Ricky, Mito, Denny, Henley. There's your cash game lineup that people will plug in. And it probably does well. I mean, it's the U.S. Open. These are guys that can come through. But I just think there's other ways you can get different with this, like I said. But this is the common type build. 8K range gets skipped. 6K range gets skipped. That's why I said if you go back to your original build, I don't know how quick you want to jump off it, but I'm saying to convert this lineup, Scotty to Rom is fine, but even if you left it as Scotty, take Xander down to Cam Smith, take your 7K guys completely out, pick your 2 favorite 6Ks, and then see where it lands you in the 8K, if you can set it up that way.
So Xander down to Cam Smith, and then the 6K, let's use Shank.
Okay, I like it, because he's a guy we actually said that people clearly like, but are not. They're talking about it or being about. They're talking about more than they're being about it. They're talking about it. It's hitting up in the numbers. Are they actually clicking it and going through? So I like that call.
So Scheffler, Cam Smith, Shank. I took out Ricky. So you take out Ricky. Now you have 8,500. Now if you do want, I mean, this lineup is off. We're getting off the beaten path anyway. But if you include Lowry or Sungjae or Dustin or Sam Burns into this lineup, your lineup is completely unique now.
Who do you like in the 8K range? It's a good conversation to have right now.
I mean, no one likes any of the 8K guys. I don't like any of them. Do you?
I do. Yeah.
Okay. Who are the ones you like?
I like Finau.
Okay.
I like JT.
Okay. So
And
we're
then,
at 87.
I always like Sungjae. That can get me into trouble, but he's a guy that really pops if we go to this accuracy model. And again, people just loved him weeks ago. He literally wins in Korea, falls off the map for a couple weeks. People get all pissed off, and now, for whatever reason, he looks like he's going to be 10% or less. So I don't mind him.
I think I would feel the best about Lowry or Dustin.
I was just going to say the last one I was going to say is I can't get a feel for this one is DJ at 8,300.
Just take the guys that have consistently performed well at U.S. Opens.
Yeah. Do you like DJ? I was going to say if you had to pick one.
I don't like any of these guys. That's a problem.
See, I could go to that. If we go to DJ in that lineup, you land in the same thing. You can play like Siwoo and your favorite $7,200 guy.
You can get rid of Denny, who I don't like, and get up to one of the Taylors. I mean, Taylor Montgomery, Taylor Moore, Nick Taylor. You can go to Siwoo or Mito again.
I think I would play Mito Siwoo there.
Mito Siwoo? I'd rather play Siwoo than Henley.
Yeah, I think that's the play. I like this one. So it's Scotty, Cam Smith, DJ, Mito, Siwoo, Shank. And the difference is instead of 4 7K guys.
Oh, I got it.
What is it? Take out?
You don't use Mito and you don't use Siwoo.
Okay.
You turn that like Henley Denny guy into Patrick Rogers, and then you get Thigala or Keegan. I'll take Thigala.
I'll take Thigala.
So Scheffler, Cam, Thigala, Rogers, Shank, Dustin.
Yeah. I like it. I think one other build I was going to look at there, though, was if we can take... We'll leave Shank for the sake of this one, but let's take...
I mean, you insert $6,800, $6,700, $6,900 player.
Well, I want to see more like if you go... Cam Young is a $6,500 guy.
Carson Young.
No. I'm saying if I go... Sorry, what I meant to say is if I go Cam Young in that build that we just did and take out Patrick Rogers and... Who was the 7K guy? Thigala. If I take out Rogers and Thigala...
Sam Bennett is your answer.
You went with Sam Bennett. So let me look at this. My one Sam Bennett lineup that I'll run. It lands me on Cam Young.
It does. Scheffler, Cam Smith, Cam Young, Dustin, Shank, Sam Bennett.
All right. Project's horrible because of Sam Bennett.
Yeah, Sam Bennett's great.
No.
Don't worry about it.
If he's great, you get him. But,
You wait for his T36.
What about Jason Day?
I don't know. Like they're just if you can pick right, I do really think, and I think I wrote this on Monday, or as soon as the pricing came out and put it in the newsletter, that if you can pick right in this 8K range, especially this low, like Hideki from 8K to Hideki, because people are going to use Hideki. If you can get the right guy from there, I think that's where you win the $1 million.
Yeah. What if?
But I couldn't tell you which one is which.
Man, I was just thinking, what if you take out Cam Smith? This is another angle I looked at earlier, because I think people, if they do get off these guys at the top, they're looking at more of what's the 3 9K guys I can use. And if it's Rory, Xander, Spieth, some combination of the low guys to fit one in.
We'll get to that because I have a Super Smash 9K that I love.
Okay, let's do that in 1 second. I just want to see if we go 3 8K guys here. You don't have to be on Bennett. We can leave Shank. We can leave DJ.
Okay, so get rid of Bennett, get rid of Cam Smith is what you're saying.
Go Scotty, DJ, Shank, and let's pick 2 8K guys.
So we can get, I mean, Justin Thomas makes the most sense, but he has been like legitimately bad. And
so I talked about this, and I think that's, to cut you off, but just to say it, is like everyone's the 50-1, it's auto bet, it's this, that. I don't think so as much as on DK at 8,700. He's literally just above the average price. You can find a guy that can definitely find his way around, can make less mistakes, can do whatever. Top 5, top 10, it would not surprise you. If he wins, you want to have that ticket in hand. Of course you do. I'm just saying it's not the case that he's 9,600 or 9,900 and we have to make a decision. He's 8,700. Like
of the bottom guys of the 8K range, I think it would be Dustin and Lowry for me.
Okay. And then we need a $6,300 guy.
Why do we need a 6,300?
Well, no, because I was keeping Schenk in there, but I also could take Scotty
we
to
can
Rom.
we can have a $7,000 guy. Scheffler, Lowry, Dustin, Cam Young.
No, I'm saying what people are definitely not doing that I'm going to do is I'm going to play 3 8K guys and no 7K guys.
Well, that is a 3. Oh, well, I mean, that puts you exactly at 7K.
No, I have Scheffler.
Yeah.
Then I have Justin Thomas.
Oh, you have Thomas.
Lowry, DJ,
Oh, okay.
Schenk.
So you turn Cam Young into DJ.
Yes, and
Okay.
it leaves me at 6,300. But I think now at 66, if I go to Rom, I thought there was somebody we liked at 66 quite a bit.
Yeah, there is. Sam Stevens is there.
Yeah, where's he at?
6,600.
Yeah, that's the one. So if you go that, listen, it's Rom, JT, Shane Lowry, Dustin Johnson, Schenk, and Stevens. And $6,800 could be somebody else too if you didn't like Schenk there. It could be your Kitayama and Stevens.
Yeah, or you could, if you like Sam Bennett, you could go Sam Bennett, Patrick Rogers if you wanted to.
Yeah. So there's ways to play it. I'm just saying
Moronk is there as well.
That's a lineup. So what we just said, this is the conversion of lineup construction, just talking it through, is what we said. The first lineup that made the most sense and pops on paper is the Scheffler with Xander and then 4 7K guys that are all popular. I get it. Most people that are playing tournaments at a higher level know not to do that, or we'll find a different way around it. But the key component was absolutely 0 8K guys, absolutely 0 6K guys. We've now went to the 11K guy. We just went to Rom for this example. You can go back and switch stuff around. But when you set it up this way, you now have 3 8Ks, 2 6Ks. You have no 7s, no 9s. You just flip the build, and it's not really that different. You didn't dumpster dive too far. We went to some of the guys that could have been at 68 or 69 or 7K in some cases with Kitayama or something. And then the 8K guys, if they pop for you, you're way different than everybody else with this build.
Who was our favorite 71? 7,000. Actually, no, I like Sergio, so I can put Sergio in. So what do you make of this lineup? You can punch this in. It's not going to rate out well. But this is the build that I want to do, and I want to keep these top 2 guys locked in and then figure out the rest around them.
Okay.
Rahm and Brooks.
Didn't talk a lot about Brooks yet. Yeah, go
No,
ahead.
I'm playing Brooks. I didn't bet Brooks because it's hard to fill out a betting card when you have Rahm already on it.
Yes.
But Rahm and Brooks together, and then it leaves me like Moronk, Kitayama, Sergio, and Keegan Bradley.
What about Thigala?
Or Thigala. We use Thigala in the other examples. We use Keegan in this one because I like them both and I'm playing them both.
Thigala Keegan going to be the one?
I'll probably play them. Yeah,
Play them both.
together.
Is that the one? Yeah, that's fine. Like I said, so this one skips the 9s and the 8s completely. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and it allows me Rahm and Brooks. And when you go back and look at U.S. Opens, usually it's like, yeah, you can have an outlier winner, but you usually see 2 of the super studs up there, and you're just kind of banking that Scotty putts poorly enough that he's not second place, and then all of a sudden you need him over these guys.
Yeah, it's really the position placement points. Like you could literally see a Rahm Brooks duel and fit Scotty in the mold and other guys and Cantlay, whatever you want to say. Yeah. My point is, if you get the duel though, you got to have the other 4 guys come with for some sort of placement points. So you have to really decide. In your case, the Sam Bennett example, just going back to it, we'll use this. We've used it on other major shows where the strategy is you're saying, I could really see this guy being a lot more next year. I would take the under on 8K if we bet it today, but I'm just saying.
You're probably right. I'd probably need odds on that.
But the point is, yeah, you'd need odds on that. But the point is, if you see that, at least if you feel that way, if Mito's your guy or if Denny is your guy, you're like, I can't believe they still price this guy down here. He's been so good on Fast and Firm. He's been so good in these designated events, etc. Then when you fit those in, you don't feel like they're the guy that you're needing to come through for you. They do need to come through for you, obviously, but I'm saying they're the guy you don't feel like is the one you're counting on in this lineup. Moronk, Sergio, Kitayama. It's how do you feel about those? I know we talked about liking Kitayama. We definitely talked about liking Thigala. You really only have the 2 in Sergio and Moronk. And again, you probably have stronger feelings on, but my point is if you have those 2 that you need to come through, it's not as bad as if your lineup is Patrick Rogers, Lucas Herbert, whatever, and then 2 other guys. You're like, if it works, though, if those guys, if I get the 2 winners in Scheffler and Rahm, I'm good. You're probably not good. Like that's where the mistakes get made.
Well, I think you can get away if you can isolate whatever the duel is, whether it's Rory, Scheffler, whatever it might be, and your worst guy who allowed you to create that lineup does come like T29. I think that still
Great.
would be good.
You're crushing. I'm saying but getting that out of certain combinations when people are doing, if Wilco gets thrown in there, a Sergeant Wilco, to make it work in a sense of a $6,100 and a $63 or $6,400
I
guy.
thought you were making a Sergeant Bilko reference, but you're just talking about Sergeant and Wilco.
Sergeant and Wilco. Sergeant Wilco. Oh, man. If you do that, though, I'm saying you're already hindering yourself. Yes, it's going to look awesome up top when you get Rahm and Scheffler, but you're already probably in a bad spot just by how you started the lineup. We don't know what's going to happen. We just know some of the odds and things that get factored into it. It's less likely to happen than you'd think in most cases. You need the perfect storm. The Xander Mullinex example I gave earlier. You just need that to happen.
Oh, absolutely. So I want to build one more before we get to the Q&A session.
9K Smash?
9K Smash, to see what that looks like balanced-wise. Because I want to see if I can fit this all. I haven't built it yet, but I have an idea in mind of what I want to do. That if I take 3 9K guys, especially bottom 9K guys,
Okay.
that can I fit in Thigala, Keegan, and Neiman with them?
Is it Homa Kawa?
It was going to start Homa, Kawa, Cam Smith.
All right.
Homa, Kawa, Cam Smith. No, I don't have enough.
Can't fit Neiman, Bradley, Sergio.
Neiman, Bradley, Sergio?
Yeah.
Well, that's not bad. What if I do Thigala, Bradley? I like Neiman better than both those guys. But
Then you get your $7,100 guy.
So, Justin Suh. Neiman, Thigala. No, that's
No, I lied. Sorry. I thought you were taking Neiman down. That's my bad. It's,
No, we're left with 7,000, so it would be Sergio.
But what about the lineup you just said by accident? Because we did say that it could end up being those two. And if you go Homa, Kawa, Smith, Thigala, Keegan, Justin Suh. See, that's what I'm saying about that lineup. If you don't have you don't get the duel of
Rahm Scheffler.
But guess what? They dueled on Sunday at the Memorial. Unfortunately, it was about 10 groups back or whatever. So this is the duel you might be looking for if the duel ends up being Cam Smith and Colin Morikawa coming down the stretch. And then your worst guy, you have Keegan Bradley, you have Thigala, your worst guy in is Justin Suh, who you feel pretty good about. That's what I'm saying. If, again, you need things to go your way, this is way more likely to go your way than the Wilco Sargent. We'll switch the form up on that one.
Yeah, so you don't want to confuse me too much.
That's right. But you know what I mean? This is just a prime example of it. Again, it's balance versus not, but this has no 11K, no 10K, no 8K, no 6K, and it's low-owned 9K guys. So this is the type of build, if you're going to go balance, that can get you different.
Oh, my God. Since Cust has picked both Mito and Neiman, there's been 3 earthquakes in Chile.
Gosh.
Jesus
The stuff that happens, man, this guy.
Just very quickly before we get to the Q&A, how do you feel that you're not going to play Homa? Are you going to play Morikawa? Because I am unconcerned about his back.
I have no concerns there. He himself said there's no concerns there. We talked about it before. You mentioned it, I think, either the earlier show or something that we did. I forget what it was when you talked about the spasms, what a spasm actually is, and it just happens. That's why he literally could not play golf on that Sunday. But we don't know how quickly it was back. It could have been back the next day, and he's fine. It's just one of those things where you couldn't play through it. So definitely interested in him, much less interested in Homa. I like Kawa.
What is it against Homa that you have this week? Just
it's really just where he's at. The range, 9,400. Again, people say he's won, so have other guys. He hasn't won majors. Call him out. Morikawa has 2. Spieth has multiple majors. Fitzpatrick's the defending U.S. Open champion. Xander, I think, gets a major before Homa. If he doesn't, so be it. But Xander's got his own U.S. Open record. And then Rory McIlroy at $9,900 with now it looks like sub 20. Not saying that makes it good, but just saying it definitely makes it better than how it could have looked coming into this week had he have won on Sunday or something like that. So to me, it's more the range. Show me something. He does not pop. Even when I switch up models, he ends up staying almost the same, whereas Morikawa gets much better. Spieth actually gets much better. Even Xander goes up slightly. All that stuff. So I just, it's really just that. He's still coming in 8 to 10%. You can play a low-owned Homa and the Cali Kid and once set a course record here back in the day.
Hey, don't forget, this is all the stuff that we laughed at last year at the U.S. Open. It turned out the one guy who had played there before was the guy who won.
Yeah. Someone said that too. Different circumstance, I think.
No, it's not. It's just he didn't have to go against Francois Omelette, so he was fine.
Maybe better narrative, literally staying with the same family, on the same course, all that stuff.
Homa can just stay at his house.
Yeah, he shot one time. He showed up there for a round and shot a 61. That's not why he's doing well on Sunday when he's doing well after I make fun of him, personally.
I'm playing Max Homa. So we're going to get to the Q&A now, so continue to load your questions into the chat. You need to be subbed to Mayo Media Network in order to ask your question. time permitting. We'll try to do all of these. I have another hit in like an hour and a half that I have to do, but we're probably not going to spend 90 minutes doing questions. I can assure you and the viewers of that, but please, we're going to try to get to as many as possible. So we'll try to rapid fire and bounce some more ideas off each other a little bit. As a reminder, I am giving away $500 in cash to one of you out there. So please, even if you, listen, not everyone has an iPhone, but everyone has a phone. So you're either using Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Subscribe, rate, and review the Pat Mayo Experience audio podcast right now. Download the episodes while you're there as well. That gives you 15 ballots apiece into that draw for the $500 giveaway that I'll be announcing on Monday. And fantasynational.com/Mayo gets you 20% off. And by doing those things, along with subscribing to the free newsletter down in the description, that you will get more ballots into the draw and you might win a free annual membership, but you need to be a member to get in that draw already. Johnny Newman is first up here. First one I'm seeing. Rank these 7.5K guys and above.
No.
It's a list of like 9 guys.
Yeah, that's a joke.
It's not, but...
No, it's Johnny Newman's Football, I think, on Twitter.
I don't know who that is.
I know who he is. He's
You're
probably...
like in touch with all these Twitter people, aren't you?
Yeah, I know my people. I know the people that'll come through and watch the show live at 9:30 a.m. Eastern, and he's trying to get you to set me up for a failure again on a ranking system.
Okay, so let's do it this way. Rose or Fleetwood?
Rose.
Rose or Adam Scott?
That one's closer, but I'd probably still stay Rose.
Rose or Ricky Fowler?
Damn. Rose.
Rose or Wyndham Clark?
Definitely Rose.
Rose or Bryson?
Rose.
Rose or Connors?
Rose.
Rose or Thigala?
I like the Oliver Turners, but still Rose.
Rose or Patrick Reed?
Similar answer to the last one. Still Rose.
So
I like Rose.
So you like Rose the best. We didn't mention Corey Connors, who could be pretty good. He plays majors really well.
Yeah. He's fine. I don't mind him. He's at 7,800. No one else is really playing anyone there. You're playing Fleetwood, or you're playing guys. If you are getting to guys in the 8K range, if not, you're going down to Rose, Bryson. It's just that whole range. You got to be probably sprinkling these guys in. I like who you mentioned: Keegan, Thigala. Ricky's got high ownership, but for good reason. He's been playing really good golf lately. Reed on longer, tough courses. Creativeness, that sort of stuff. So it's a lot of good tournament plays there, but I think Rose still would be at the top.
Get your questions in now before we run out of time, and don't get yourself banned for life. I want questions. I don't really care about your opinions on things. Just need questions. Let's see. I think Sung Jae is interesting after he... That's not a fucking question! Oh my God. This is why I stopped doing the live show. Idiots.
Go ahead.
Mito seems to be super talked up this week. Is he warranted? I don't think he's going to end up as popular. I think he's popular amongst us who play a lot, talk about golf a lot. But when you get like random guy who enters Millionaire Maker, he's not clicking Mito Pereira.
I think he's 12 to 15% this week.
I would guess more 12 than 15.
Okay.
And if he dropped below 10, I wouldn't be super stunned.
If he drops below 10, I like him even more. But yeah, I definitely think he's in play this week for sure.
Lowry and Day or Young and Hideki?
Lowry and Day or Young and Hideki? Lowry Day.
Lowry Day. I think I'm with you on that one.
Yeah.
Good week to avoid aggressive putters on these large greens. For example, Killa Keith, who constantly puts himself 3 to 6 feet past the hole after his first putt. I actually do. I think great weight is something that's very hard to gauge, though.
I was just going to say, I don't know where...
Statistically. I mean, you can look at spectrum data for stuff like that.
Yeah.
We're working on it right now to try to filter it through on Fantasy National. Oh, I went to Minnesota last week for a revamp of the site, and live leaderboard looks fucking amazing with real-time data.
That's what we need.
Yeah, so instead of using the PGA app, we're going to get that built out. I just don't know how long it's going to take. The other thing that I wanted to put in is both real-time and after-the-round data for Showdown, that for the longest time that we talked about, and it worked forever until everyone just started doing it, ball striking minus putting. Boom, you're good to go. But then it would always be actually give an advantage to the guys that putt well, maybe that they just have these greens figured out and no one would be using them on day 2 because they gained like 5 strokes, whatever it might be. So what I want to create is a system for you to go in and be able to look at your shot by shot after the round, strokes gained, and what it would do. I mean, you can customize it like with rules any way you want, but the default option would be we're going to throw out your best 2 strokes gained in all of the categories and worst 2 in all of the categories. So then you basically get the mean of what you did. So if someone gained, let's say, 4 strokes putting, but it's because they made 2 80-foot putts, then their putting is not going to look so good
That's going to be huge.
when those two are taken out. But if they consistently just putted well all day, then it would still be representative of that.
So that's why I think people like the showdown shows that we do. I actually go into the data and go hole by hole and try and figure this stuff out and say, okay,
But we'll just have this for you.
Two of these holes that he gained it all from, and that's where there's a huge advantage in showdown with that as just another added edge because people don't actually go into that. They look at the data and say, oh, this guy gained 2 on approach. He must have killed it. They know 1.8 of what he gained on approach was a hole out eagle from wherever, and that's it. And the rest of his approach was trash. It's just that saved his day, and vice versa. So I mean, that's you got to dig deep or just watch the show. And when we get that data, the content side of things will be even easier to present on the show on Mayo Media Network. But every week, round 2 and round 3, it's the Ship It Nation collaboration with the Mayo Media Network.
Get in there. Is there any codes left for Ship It Nation?
No codes, but today is last call. Hoop and I are doing a show 3 p.m. Eastern. It's going to be a freemium version. It's our premium show taken live on the Ship It Nation YouTube, youtube.com/@ShipItNation. Last call to get in on the founding family offer, $59 a month.
For life?
For life. It locks in. It's not first month only. $5.99 for the year. Converts to $49 a month. And again, there's 6 major sports. We just added MMA as well. There's going to be projections for all of them, tools for all of them.
Is your projections asking Paul? And he was like, 79.4.
No, it's definitely not that. People get mad at the word proprietary, but yes, there's it's like a KFC chicken. There's lots of different secret spices behind the scenes that get built into it, and I've used them myself, so I'm pretty happy about everything we got going on over there.
We're only at 133 likes here, so I don't feel like that's enough.
You didn't ask enough
to keep the show going.
That's
so
the reason.
if we don't get to 200 here in like the next 2 minutes, we're shutting it down. So smash the like if you're out there and sub to Mayo Media Network. Where are we at on Hideki? Top 20 machine in U.S. Opens. Saw some people putting him out there. I like Hideki enough. I just think he's the 8K guy that I think is just, he's going to be 5 times as owned as the rest of the 8K guys. And top 20 is great and everything, but I need people who want to win from here.
Yeah, he definitely looks. What do you think he comes in at for ownership? He looked like he was getting up there, but I was seeing closer to like 14 to 17.
I was going to say 16 because when we talked about the Scheffler and Schauffele builds, or Scheffler and anyone, like it just, you can't now fit him in.
That's the only thing I wonder, again, where sometimes people think this and then it gets squeezed a little bit. I see Hatton as the guy that's the most owned in this range with Hideki just behind him. But yeah, the AK range is going overlooked no matter how you shake it out. I like Hideki for some builds, but he's definitely someone I have started to keep in mind when you're building out in your roster construction. How many guys like him do you have? Like, I wouldn't necessarily love a Hatton, Hideki, Mito, Denny type lineup because now you got 4 guys that are all getting that late steam and already getting ownership. So I would try and avoid something like that.
Romain Langeski at $6,600, asked Tim Peterson. We went over him on the Best Bet show. He's actually playing some pretty good golf.
Yeah.
I'm not using him, though.
Whatever. I mean, some of these guys you'll play and maybe one of them will come through. He could be the guy.
Y'all think most of these guys will go under. I don't know what the fuck that means. What, you had a fucking stroke? Strokes gain stroke questions? Fuck off.
What was the remainder? I was kind of interested.
If you could create strokes gains creativity outside of Spieth and Cam Smith, who else do you think stands out? I think Scheffler's actually number 1 in that category.
Yeah, well...
Reed.
Yeah, Reed. You're talking about Mackenzie Hughes.
I mean, I don't know if Mac Hughes is super creative. He just makes 70-foot putts.
That is true, too. But if you were talking like the mold of what we're talking about, of those guys, if you're building like the all lineup, he could go into it as a guy that does that.
Basically, it's Cam Smith and Reed. Actually, Reed is a Texas guy, isn't he? Is he from Texas? I find the Texas guys are like wildly creative. And I think it's because they play in a lot of the European players. I thought it was like
Houston. Yeah, it's Houston, Texas. I think he is.
Especially the Brits as well. I think like when you play these wide open courses that you get in Texas, and when you play, like if there was ever going to be a good golfer from our area, I feel like they would have to be very creative because you play a lot of links golf around here. And when you play a lot of links golf or wide open golf where you can have the choice of chipping it with an 8-iron from 30 yards away or putting it way up into the air depending on the condition and the roll, which you see a lot in British and links golf or even in Texas flat golf, that I think it just makes you inherently more creative than your California or Florida style golfer who it's just kind of the same shots over and over.
So we can do that because you can go Spieth, Reed, and then you can go... The other thing you just mentioned, what you talked about with our stuff, is where I think a lot of people are bringing up the Australians this week. So now you can get Cam Smith and Adam Scott into the lineup, and now you have 8,400. If you go to Scheffler, you're out of money. Who's the other? Who else fits this mold that I'm missing? Australian or from Texas
or British?
Yeah, British you could have fit in there too if you wanted.
I don't know.
I think who else is
just sticking out in my mind. No one like Patrick Rogers. I wouldn't consider the most creative player in the world.
right.
Or-
Fitz is English.
Fitz is English. Cam Smith fits us in as well.
I got Cam Smith in there. Okay, here it is. Boom, found it. The 2 Englishmen, the 2 Australian, and the 2 Texans. Spieth Reed, Cam Smith, Adam Scott, Matt Fitzpatrick, Justin Rose.
That can't be a real lineup.
That's a real lineup.
Are you serious?
Yeah, man. That's a lineup.
See
This
that?
is the threesome special right here.
It's not even a devil's threesome.
3
That's fine.
twosomes. Yeah, you got a 3 twosome lineup.
So it's Spieth, Fitz, Cam, Reed.
Scott Rose. That's a good lineup.
I mean, Justin Rose. You talk about creativity. It's a guy who won a U.S. Open by using 3 hybrid to chip.
Yeah, that's the one.
I actually kind of like that lineup.
It's not bad.
I would feel better about it if this wasn't such a long course. None of the
I can't change it that much. I was thinking of something else. But yeah, no, it's fine. I just making that up, but just to say it, like you said, that's a lineup that definitely works.
Rose versus Neiman single entry. I like Neiman.
Yeah, and again, this is what I was talking about. I'll bring it up as a quick strategy piece because people, hear about it in different places. But everyone's going to say the same thing here. In a vacuum, it's like 4-1 odds on Rose versus Neiman. If you are betting somebody right now and they want even money on that, you just take Neiman and move on and go from there because the ownership setup. But at the same time, you have to pick 5 other spots in your lineup. This is what people always confuse. Like just because you change that spot doesn't mean it's the auto play. If the rest of your lineup was already unique enough and you really like Rose, you can play him, right? Not who you play, how you play him. That's an example. If you already have 3 other chalk plays of the week jammed in there, it's probably not the best setup for these large field tournaments to find leverage with.
86% of people in the chat believe that Kush should apologize to the nation of Chile.
Wow.
I think it should be 100%. That's exactly what should happen.
Same odds as his albatross bet.
That's right. We need more likes in order to keep this going. So we're almost out of time unless we get to 200 likes. So smash a like if you're out there. What number would you bet Rory at this week? I'd say 25-1.
I don't know. I like these questions. 22. I like that number.
Okay. Is 50-1 on Justin Thomas just a blind bet? I'm not doing it.
No.
So
no. I just don't think it is. I mean, he hasn't shown anything to show me that. I really like him on DraftKings at what looks like sub 10% ownership, and the fact that he doesn't have to do nearly as much. He's 8,700. If he wins, like I said, you want to hold that ticket, and people will say it is because of that number, but he just hasn't been doing anything.
Someone asked the Fantasy National question, fantasynational.com/Mayo. Is strokes game putting going to be adjusted for uphill and downhill, or not enough data, or too difficult? Currently, we do have the data. It is just we can't figure out a way to make it presentable, if that makes any sense. Like
Man, just the thing you said you were focused on, the live leaderboard and those stats, cutting 2 things out, incredible. Use case.
But I went and presented like a 4-part plan about how we use this data. That was in part 3 of the plan.
Well, that to me, who gives a shit? Like he's so good at uphill putts. Okay, so today he's always going to put it to the spot he gets uphill. It's too many other factors to matter. Let's get actionable items like these other 1 and 2 are very actionable.
Yeah, those are 1 and 2 on the list.
Experience and actionable data. 2 pretty good things.
Yeah, so basically it'll be faster than the PGAtour.com leaderboard that you can make completely customizable, and bringing back the old school. You can see it, like you can have a leaderboard of like 10 guys, and it will give you like the bars, like 341 to middle of fairway.
What about if I just want to put my 6-guy lineup up?
Absolutely.
Oh man,
you could even load your DraftKings CVS into it and have it done by the percentage of players that you have.
Stay tuned for fantasynational.com, promo code TAMBO. And we'll have that out there because there's some rev share value in this one with what you're talking about adding. These are some really good features.
And Pat's suggestion was to give away the leaderboard for free.
I like it.
Just saying, to get people on the page.
I agree.
But we'll see if that comes through. I got a screenshot of it yesterday. Now we just need to make it functional. Thanks for the great and free content this week. Thank you for watching. Any love for Henley or English? I like both of them, but not enough to get me there on them. There are other guys. I just don't like that range.
Yeah, I like Henley better. I just don't know what we see his ownership actually come in at. And again, I don't just fade a guy because of the ownership there. It's also a U.S. Open setup. I know that he's going to look good. Like when I do my accuracy and ball striking type model, of course he flies up because that's what he does. But at the same time, the range is absolutely loaded. That's where I have a little bit more trouble when I can validate 3, 4, 5 other guys around him. That's the case. Quick thought. Free leaderboard. But if you want to see your 6 guys at the same time,
That is actually
that's the model. See, too, we're getting too
that's
smart
the
here,
model.
Pat.
That's the model.
All
You
right.
got to upcharge somewhere. We have to make this worth doing.
Yeah, I agree. And it's expensive to deal with all the back end. So
It's not necessarily the back end. I mean, that part is expensive to develop, but once it's developed, it's good to go. To get the real time data,
yeah, that too. Yeah,
talking like
at any
hundreds
reasonable
of-
timing too. Like you said, you're going to get.
Well, yeah. Well,
fast,
it
so
doesn't make any sense if it's not.
if it's not accurate. Exactly.
If it's not real time data. Real time is called 45-second data. Is what it is. But like PGAtour.com uses like 3-minute later data. Like you can be on Bet365 and use their leader.
I was going to say 365 days a week. Yours,
yeah, no,
will
I'm
be
just
open
saying
that
on their leader we'll have
Yeah.
we theoretically we'll have the same
feed.
feed as they do from IMG.
Perfect. And way easier to use, and it sounds like it'd be better. And if you
more intuitive and free to use.
be able to use it that way,
Yeah.
so that's great.
In higher dollar single entry, will the most popular build have 2 to 3 mid 7K guys? If so, what is a contrarian build for those single entries? I think they'll have 2 to 3 mid 7K. I still think like Scheffler in higher stakes single entry will go from 25 to 33, 35%.
Yeah, that's definitely right. So just all the contrarian build is getting off those 7K guys or limiting them. And what that means is where most will have 3+, maybe you only have 2. Maybe you have 1 and you can validate some of those other guys. Get some 8K guys in the mix. We just showed you what the most common Scheffler build looks like. That will be used in a lot of single entries or a variation of it that's very close. It included 0 8Ks and 0 6Ks, 0 9Ks as well. Or sorry, 1 9K in Xander. So a couple 9K guys and get off Scheffler, 3 9K guys that we talked about, and you still can use those 7K guys, but you don't have any above or below. There's plenty of ways to do it this week. Like I said, it's more groupthink than you would expect for a major. While the ownership is still spread out because it's a major with soft pricing, it still has people landing in similar roster construction and similar thought processes.
450 viewers, fewer than 200 likes, low energy, sad.
Sad.
So smash the like.
How many do we got?
171. We got to get to 200 here. Oh, man, there's some good questions down here, too. It looks like we're not going to answer them.
We got time, too. I was checking it.
Unfortunate.
Yeah.
Seems like Fleetwood going under-owned.
No.
I don't know about that.
No.
What do you think his ownership ends up at? 15%, I'll say.
Oh, I got higher.
You got it way higher than that. Okay.
I got right now 17 to 20.
How much lower owned will Rahm be compared to Scheffler? I'm going to say 25 to 18%.
I actually have Scheffler capped a little bit. I could see him coming in at like 23, 22 and a half, somewhere in that range. I'm not trying to put an exact, but just to say that. And I think Rahm comes in 6 points less than the $25 Million Maker.
Seamus Power was great in majors last year, seeing sub 5%. Do either of us have any interest? No.
I had him on the list, and then I think I took him off. I couldn't make a decision, so I just went against it.
Is Tom Kim a full fade this week? I think he kind of has to be. He just hasn't been good.
Yeah. The main thing actually with him is more the pricing, too, like where he's at.
Yeah, if he was 74, it would be great.
Too many other guys around him.
Looking for last guy in. Perez, English, or Henley? Big Dick Vic Perez. Can't bet on him. Low French. Then forgot about Langascu.
Yeah, it's probably Perez or Henley. I
Okay.
think.
You really don't like English, huh?
I'm not. I know he has like a U.S. Open record, and people say that and go through it. He's playing a little bit better. He's just not a guy that I play, so didn't make my list.
Thoughts on Eckroat or for a cheap play? I think he's in the mix. I prefer Shank, who's cheaper, I think.
Yeah, Eckroat's in the mix for me. I like him at 7K. I like Minwoo better, but
I like Minwoo better. I like Sergio better.
Yeah, Sergio's the guy that I said I think could pop for an old guy. We've seen all these specialties lately where you'll see certain guys pop
Sergio's
up.
not even that old.
No, but they would classify him as it in this class, especially when you've got the guys around him.
But why
that
don't
we're
we talk
talking
about Adam Scott that way? Or
I
Justin Rose
do,
that way?
but I think the thing is, no one's like people are playing Adam Scott. People are playing Justin Rose. That's more of the angle that people are looking at this from, is who's the guy that would pop that nobody's talking about, and it's Sergio. And Sergio, by the way, had to grind into this event.
Oh,
Remember,
yeah.
people were saying, like, this dude wants it so bad. And remember the conversations right now, chip on shoulder, the Euros shouldn't make the Ryder Cup team or won't. Even Rory stepping in and saying Brooks should, but nobody on the European side should. How does that work? I don't understand. He should just probably stop talking. But, yeah, I think he is going to stop talking at this point. So
Why did Homa go from 28 to 1 to 35 to 1 in 24 hours? I'm guessing because no one is betting on him. Everyone who bet on Homa already bet on
we
him.
already got the ticket.
Yeah.
When he was playing really good.
So no one wants to bet on him in real time.
It was like Riv, right? He was in the run down the stretch against Rahm. Couldn't get the job done, but still then it was like, well, holy, he's 50 to 1 still. You can go pick him up for LACC, and you're like, okay, I'll go do that.
Any way to check on Cantley's putting on more undulated bent grass greens? No. Not as of right now. Great show.
Yeah, technically you could. In Fantasy National, you could go find bent grass.
Well, yeah, and sort by those courses.
And then change the course.
But you need to know that. It's not just like there's a button.
No, that's true.
So,
But someone who wants to know that should be willing to get some research in Google.
Yeah.
Where's my clip of you telling them how to Google it? That's the best one.
great show, guys. Thanks, Bob. Thor Bjornsson and Bennett, too risky. Love their skill level. I like Bennett more than Thor Bjornsson because of the driving acumen. But yeah, they're probably too risky. And you say lack of experience. Like I just said, Bennett made the cut at the U.S. Open last year. So he's at least played in a U.S. Open.
Yeah. Don't hate it. I don't really like either of them. So long term, see how it actually plays out. But for this week, don't care about either really.
Seems like Mito is trending towards Ricky PGA Championship ownership. Do you agree? I do not. Mito's just never going to be as popular as Ricky is. Like anytime there's like a sniff of Ricky, Ricky gets blown out.
I think he's saying that PGA Championship, Ricky got that added steam late. Remember, Ricky got pumped up to like 20?
Yeah, and then he was the highest owned guy.
Yeah, they're saying that
Mito's not going to be the highest owned guy.
No, but in that range, he's definitely getting the steam. Like I can see him getting to 14 right now in that range. 17.
I think maybe.
Yeah, he's definitely getting love for sure.
Yeah. Do you think there's a case for make-miss cut odds from Sportsbook for building DFS lineups? I would guess that optimizers have that built into it.
Yeah. A lot of them are factoring in already top 20 odds, things like that.
Yeah, I don't think that to make the cut, to miss the cut odds are especially good because a lot of them they don't give you everyone for one thing.
Ever see a Pat Mayo miss the cut parlay? You definitely are against. You're like, I'll just bet against this guy. Hammer 6 of them in there.
I always think there's far more value on to miss the cut than to make the cut, but that's a popularity contest a lot of the times. Like when they, this guy is minus, like, for someone like Phil this week, I think it's like minus 110 to make the cut, minus 110 to miss the cut. Like, chances are he's going to miss the cut. Like, to miss the cut is probably a good bet on that. That's not to say he is going to miss the cut. That's probably like a 30-70 split. Make the cut, miss the cut for Phil at the U.S. Open. This, in particular, U.S. Open. So I don't think that they're necessarily a great way to gauge if you're trying to project out. I think the top 20 odds are much better.
Yeah.
Kitayama or Suh? Well, they're not the same price, but I like Suh better.
I'll probably go Kitayama.
Okay. Thigala is a top 10 this week. I can see it.
Yeah, worth a shot. We talked about it in the 30 rounds thing is getting a little bit blown up now, but at the same time, the range that he's in has a lot of other guys people are playing instead. So I think Thigala's a good play.
One and done picks. You can rewind to 9:48 of this show to hear the one and done discussion. Sam Bennett or Sam Stevens? Stevens is the answer to that question.
Maybe neither is the answer.
Yeah.
Maybe both. But for me, Stevens.
Last
one.
No, that's it. Let's wrap it up. We didn't get to 200 likes. There's no more questions in here. We're good.
I like it.
The more people are saying that Cush should apologize to Chile.
Maybe.
Cam Smith, question mark? Well, you can rewind to who Pat bet. And he had the longest segment on the show.
9:48 for that one.
No, that was at 2:02.
I know that, but I'm saying if you want to really hear it in depth, 9:48 would be a good start.
Should Jason Day be getting more love? I feel like he got his win and he peaked.
Feels that way because he obviously what happened afterwards, but I think he's still fine. He has actually pretty decent U.S. Open record as well. If he's not falling apart, people talk about Chambers Bay. What happened at Chambers Bay? Vertigo? But didn't he still finish strong there?
I think so.
So, yeah, there's little things that have been brought up this week, but 8,100, definitely interesting.
So I'm giving away that $500. Subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify Podcasts, audio, food to the Pat Mayo Experience. Pump up those numbers, rig the system, try to get to number one. That would be
the best.
I would be very grateful for that. That'd be something you can do for me, and I'll give one of you $500. FantasyNational.com/Mayo to get 20% off. Giving away both these winners with the annual membership on Monday. Sub to the newsletter down in the description for added info and finalized thoughts this evening sent directly to your email. ShipItNation.com. Last day to get in on the Founders membership.
Yeah, specialty. That, like I said, that we'll have the show this week. It's the freemium. It's going to be 3 p.m. Eastern back on YouTube live. So another version of this. Take some questions, talk through it more on there. But it's the same thing, tagline. Everything you need to have success with DFS. That's our focus. 6 major sports. And I'm also giving away $500 tonight. So it's pretty simple. Go to my Twitter, @ToeTagAndTambo. Find the tidbits. They're there. Already, I think almost 300 or 400 retweets. It was up to $400, so $1 for every retweet. So hit it up, but you're still on the list. If it goes to 600, just we maxed it out at 400 because I'm giving away 100 from Monday on the Fantasy Golf Degenerates. If you go back to that video, it's here on the Mayo Media Network. Leave a comment of your pick. I think it was your fade over 9K is what we stuck with there.
Who is your fade over 9K?
I'd said Homa, I think.
Cantlay.
Ooh, I don't know about that one.
Rom. No, not Rom.
Not Rom.
Not Rom.
I mean,
to be perfectly transparent with you, I'm playing Brooks and I'm playing Rom and not the other guy. So
Scheffler's your fade.
Scheffler, and maybe I'll be a coward and hedge myself out and add some Scheffler into that mix. But no Rory, no Hovland, no Cantlay. Maybe Xander, I'm not sure.
You're taking some good stands there. That's fine.
I'm either going to be really right, but most likely really wrong when it comes down to it, as I normally am in a lot of these lineups. We really enjoyed doing all the shows this week on Mayo Media Network. Go back and check those out. Cut Sweat live Friday evening with me, Jeff, and Cuss. Maybe Tambo will come over too. Who knows? Probably not, because he has a show that night for Round 3 Showdown. On Thursday night, Round 2 Showdown, all on Mayo Media Network. So subscribe right now, all right? Thanks for filling the Listeners League so early. We'll max out again at the Open Championship with $100,000 of rake-free money. So we'll keep that one going to the Fantasy Golf Degenerates Listeners League right now as well. Let's fill that up so you can check that out on Tambo's Twitter or in the show profile from Sunday evening. That'll do it for me. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.